Chapter 1768. Hearing Chun Chuanxing's words, everyone had a look of understanding on their faces. It seemed like these last two beauties were extremely famous. Hence, even without Chun Chuanxing's introduction, the warriors here would recognize these two. Because Tang Ao did not know much about the Drunken Gold House, Tang Ao naturally did not know that these last two were the top girls of one of the branches of the Drunken Gold House. This Lady Luo is indeed an outstanding beauty. I offer 300 high-grade essence cultivating pills. After seeing Luo Yunshang, many warriors were immediately tempted. Compared to Wu Yuan Shu and the two top girls of the Drunken Gold House, Luo Yunshang was even more beautiful. Hence, one warrior took the initiative to bid. And after this person bid, the price immediately refreshed. I offer 50 crystals. I fell in love with Lady Luo at first sight. I hope everyone can fulfill this Zhang's wish. This warrior who called himself the Zhang was a fat man with an oily face. At this moment, his wretched eyes were also sizing up Luo Yunshang. As more and more warriors entered, the price of crystals changed again and again. Until now, crystals had changed from the initial exchange of one high-grade essence cultivating pill for one crystal to the current exchange of 10 high-grade essence cultivating pills for one crystal. It was also at this level that the exchange rate of crystals gradually stabilized. Hence, now that this person offered 50 crystals, it was equivalent to 500 high-grade essence cultivating pills. Although there were still soul crystals in the Scarlet Wasteland, because soul crystals were very rare, soul crystals had yet to become a circulating currency. However, there was also an exchange rate between soul crystals and crystals. That was, one soul crystal could be exchanged for 10 crystals. Although the black fog monsters were ferocious, their intelligence was extremely low. Furthermore, they did not have the habit of appearing in groups. Hence, even the weakest warriors could only join forces to kill the black fog monsters that appeared alone and obtain crystals. There were even some scattered crystal mines in some remote mountain ranges. Hence, although it was not easy to obtain crystals, it was not as difficult as one would imagine. However, soul crystals were different. Soul crystals only existed in the bodies of purple conch mosquitoes. Purple conch mosquitoes usually appeared in tens of thousands. In the face of such a large number of purple conch mosquitoes, a martial artist's first consideration wasn't how to obtain soul crystals, but how to survive. Since the appearance of the Scarlet Wasteland until now, it was unknown how many warriors had fallen in the Scarlet Wasteland. Among these fallen warriors, more than 60% were killed by the purple conch mosquitoes. Of the remaining 40% of martial artists, 30% died in battles between martial artists, and only 10% were killed by other monsters or monsters. From this data, one could see how difficult it was to obtain soul crystals. Currently, the various major powers even had people tracking the purple conch mosquitoes. When a small portion of the purple conch mosquitoes left the group, they would seize the opportunity to kill them. It was also because of this method that these forces gradually accumulated some soul crystals. Chapter 1769. On the stage of the intoxicated gold building, after Chun Chuanxing heard the bid of 50 origin crystals, his heart was immediately moved. Even if he got the origin cultivation pellet, he still had to exchange it for origin crystals. Right now, since that person directly used origin crystals to bid, and it was even 50 origin crystals, naturally, Chun Chuanxing was happy. But Chun Chuanxing did not immediately agree. Looking at the enthusiastic crowd below, Chun Chuanxing knew that the price was naturally not the final price. I bid 60 origin crystals. Lady Luo, I'm taking it today. Just at that time, another martial artist bid again. On the stage, Luo Yunshang already despaired as she looked at the crowd below. Just like what Tang Ao thought before, Luo Yunshang did indeed escape together with Chu Jiang and Lu Yu. Very luckily, there were no Lin family experts who chased after them. But what Luo Yunshang never would have thought was that while they were escaping, they met a martial artist with horrifying strength at the third level of the origin realm. That person called himself Great Emperor Bloody Vulture, and for some reason, he wanted to capture Lu Yu. Originally, when facing an expert at the third level of the Origin Realm, they had no way of resisting at all. However, Lu Yu used some unknown technique, and his cultivation rose to the third level of the Origin Realm. After that, with Lu Yu and Chu Jiang joining hands, they fought against the Bloody Vulture. However, the Bloody Vulture's strength was terrifyingly strong. Even with Lu Yu and Chu Jiang joining hands, Chu Jiang was still heavily injured by the Bloody Vulture and was on the verge of death. Lu Yu didn't want to implicate her, so he directly lured the Bloody Vulture away. Even now, Luo Yunshang didn't know how Lu Yu was doing on his side. When she brought the heavily injured Chu Jiang to the Evergreen Market Square and prepared to wait for Tang Ao, she was caught by Chun Chunshin. Now, Luo Yunshang's heart was filled with despair. Luo Yunshang didn't know when Tang Ao would come to Evergreen Market. She also didn't know if Tang Ao would know that she was caught after coming to Evergreen Market. At the same time, Luo Yunshang was also worried about Tang Ao. After all, the 4 experts of the Lin family had chased after Tang Ao. Until now, Luo Yunshang did not know whether Tang Ao had escaped successfully or not. As Luo Yunshang thought about her tragic experience, 2 streams of tears slowly flowed down from the corners of her eyes. Luo Yunshang didn't know what he had done wrong. His family was content to stay in a corner, developing according to the rules. In the end, because of the Lin family's expansion, he was directly swept away as a stumbling block by the Lin family. However, it was clear that no one in the Luo family had done anything wrong, but reality was cruel. If they really had to say what they had done wrong, then their fault was that they were too weak. This time, she brought the heavily injured Uncle Chu Jiang to Evergreen Market Square. Before Uncle Chu Jiang could receive treatment, she was caught by Chun Chunshin. The reason why she was caught by Chun Chunshin was also because she was too weak. In the world of martial artists, it seemed that everything was based on strength, and there was no logic to speak of. Looking at those greedy eyes below the stage, Luo Yunshang didn't know what her final fate would be. However, Luo Yunshang had already decided. Previously, she didn't have the courage nor the ability to control her own fate, but this time, she wanted to make her own choice. Once the shackles on her body were lifted, Luo Yunshang would immediately end her life. Even ants were greedy for life. If she could live, Luo Yunshang would naturally be willing to do so. However, the cruel world of martial arts had made Luo Yunshang lose the courage to live. Chapter 1770. Although the 2 of them looked exactly the same, their fates were completely different. La Kale had so many seniors who doted on her, many senior and junior brothers who got along well with her, and Tang Ao, who loved her deeply. Compared to La Kale, Luo Yunshang realized that she really had nothing. But shortly after, Luo Yunshang recalled that she wasn't completely penniless. Although Tang Ao and she could not become partners, Tang Ao was already her brother. Moreover, Tang Ao had promised her 3 things. As long as it was within Tang Ao's capabilities, Tang Ao would promise her. The first thing she asked Tang Ao to do was to let Tang Ao show her La Kale's image. Through La Kale's image, Luo Yunshang was secretly shocked. So there really was another her in this world. Sigh. Luo Yunshang sighed helplessly in her heart. She was afraid that she would not have the chance to tell Tang Ao about the remaining 2 things. If it was possible, Luo Yunshang hoped that she could see Tang Ao one more time and tell him her blessings for Tang Ao and La Kale to Tang Ao. However, it was a pity that her wish was not so easy to realize. After Luo Yunshang's bid was called to 60 crystals, everyone's attention was focused on Luo Yunshang. Immediately, everyone realized that there were 4 absolute beauties on the stage. At first glance, all 4 of them were stunningly beautiful, each with their own merits. However, upon closer inspection, one would realize that Luo Yunshang's appearance was very pleasing to the eye. Moreover, it belonged to the type that the more one looked at her, the more beautiful she became. Even the two headliners of the Drunken Gold House looked at Luo Yunshang with a trace of jealousy. They were both women, but why was Luo Yunshang so beautiful? However, when they thought about how even though Luo Yunshang was beautiful, she couldn't escape the fate of being bought and sold by others, the two of them calmed down and even felt a little happy. 70 crystals. Let's see who dares to compete with me. Old Zheng, haven't those beauties in your family drained your body dry? Leave this Miss Luo to me, your brother. 80 crystals. Below the high platform, many martial artists were still bidding. However, their bids were all focused on Luo Yunshang. As for the other three, they were reduced to mere foils. In the crowd, Tang Ao didn't say anything. However, under Tang Ao's powerful soul remembrance, void runes were condensed by Tang Ao and disappeared into the surrounding space. Just now, Tang Ao had used his sky-polar eyes to scan the entire Drunken Gold House. Other than Chen Chunxing on the stage, there were 3 other experts. Of these 3 experts, 2 were at the 2nd level of the Origin Martial Realm, and 1 was at the 3rd level of the Origin Martial Realm. Although it wouldn't be a problem for Tang Ao to directly make a move, since Tang Ao had come today, he didn't plan on letting the Drunken Gold House exist in the Evergreen Market anymore. Therefore, Tang Ao also used void runes to start setting up a lightning guiding array in the Drunken Gold House. At the same time that Tang Ao was setting up the lightning guiding array, Mui, who was next to Tang Ao, was also silent. It was unknown if he had heard the words of the martial artist in the shadows behind him and was preparing to save his life to train hard in order to get revenge in the future, or if he was secretly planning something. Chapter 1771. These years, Zhuo Bufan had been paying attention to her news. After hearing that Lu Ruyin was going to be auctioned, Zhuo Bufan immediately rushed over with a few of his brothers. Compared to the impulsive Muyi, Zhuo Bufan was much calmer. Although Zhuo Bufan's conversation with the others had all been through soul remembrance, Tang Ao was still able to clearly hear it. Zhuo Bufan decided to see which martial artist would win Lu Ruyin in the end, and then follow that martial artist to save Lu Ruyin. Although Zhuo Bufan had the cultivation of the 1st level of the Origin Martial Realm, he didn't have the qualifications to directly wrestle with the Drunken Gold Manor. Therefore, Zhuo Bufan's plan was extremely good. Zhuo Bufan also discussed with a few people whether or not they should help Mui save Wu Yuanshu. However, at this moment, they were still discussing. Although they followed Zhuo Bufan blindly, what they were going to do this time was risking offending the intoxicated Gold Pavilion, so they didn't dare to agree for a while. Finally, Zhuo Bufan decided on a compromise. After saving Lu Ruyin, if there was a chance, he would save Wu Yuanshu. If there was no chance, then forget it. No matter what he did, he had to act according to his own ability. Although Zhuo Bufan didn't like the conduct of the Drunken Gold Manor, the current Zhuo Bufan clearly didn't have the qualifications to speak with them on equal terms. Tang Ao had a rather good impression of Zhuo Bufan. He was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Lu Ruyin had unintentionally saved him, but now, when Lu Ruyin was in trouble, Zhuo Bufan immediately rushed over. This Zhuo Bufan was brave and smart. As long as the one who won Lu Ruyin in the end wasn't an Origin Martial Realm 2nd level martial artist, then Zhuo Bufan would definitely be able to save Lu Ruyin. On the high platform, Lu Ruyin's gaze was somewhat dull. Since the day she was sold into the Drunken Gold Manor by her adoptive father, Lu Ruyin knew her fate. However, she was naturally kind. Even though she had fallen into such a situation, Lu Ruyin still helped many wandering martial artists over the years. Although these people were just passers-by in Lu Ruyin's life, Lu Ruyin did not feel that life was boring after listening to the stories of these loose cultivators. However, facing this kind of thing today, Lu Ruyin's mood was still very gloomy. Lu Ruyin didn't know whether what awaited her next would be the ending of her life or the nightmare of a lifetime. Lu Ruyin's pair of beautiful eyes slowly looked at the crowd below. She saw that Mui had been injured by Chen Chunsheng because of Wu Yuanshu. Although it was impossible for Mui to rescue Wu Yuanshu today, but in Lu Ruyin's heart, she still secretly envied this girl. Although she had fallen to such a state, there were still cultivators who loved her deeply. On the other hand, she was all alone in the world. At this time, Lu Rian also saw Tang Ao, but her gaze didn't linger on Tang Ao for too long. Lu Rian quite appreciated a righteous warrior like Tang Ao. Chapter 1772. If it was possible, Lu Rian still hoped to warn Tang Ao, but now Lu Rian was at the mercy of others. Even if she wanted to warn Tang Ao, she couldn't do it. Her eyes swept over Tang Ao, and Lu Rian saw a middle-aged martial artist behind Tang Ao. Based on her experience, Lu Rian could see that this martial artist was not as old as he appeared. The reason why he looked so old should be because he had been wandering outside for many years. Moreover, when Lu Rian looked at this martial artist, she felt that he was familiar, as if she had seen this martial artist before. Perhaps it was because too much time had passed, or perhaps the current Zhuo Bufan had changed too much, but for a moment Lu Rian couldn't recognize who this person was. But Lu Rian was sure that she had definitely seen this person before. Under the high platform, Zhuo Bufan saw Lu Rian's eyes and smiled at her, as if telling her not to be afraid. But Zhuo Bufan didn't know whether this smart woman could understand his eyes. As Zhuo Bufan expected, Lu Rian really saw from Zhuo Bufan's smile that she shouldn't be afraid. But Lu Rian didn't understand. Did this martial artist, who looked like he had been through many hardships, want to bid for her this time? Or was he going to directly snatch her like Mui? If she could choose, Lu Rian really hoped that Zhuo Bufan would directly snatch her. Even if he couldn't change her fate in the end, she also wanted the feeling of being cared for. But all of this might be her wishful thinking. After all, she couldn't even recognize Zhuo Bufan. So how could she guarantee that Zhuo Bufan would recognize her? 90 yuan crystals, Miss Luo, today I want you. At this time, a higher price was quoted. This price had already far exceeded Chen Chunxing's expectations. The reason why Chen Chunxing had captured Luo Yunshang was because he wanted to capture Luo Yunshang to make up the numbers. But Chen Chunxing had never thought that Luo Yunshang, who he had captured to make up the numbers, would actually bid the highest price, 100 yuan crystals. But what everyone didn't expect was that even the high price of 90 yuan crystals was quickly refreshed. A middle-aged martial artist with a shady face walked in from outside the door and directly quoted a sky-high price of 100 crystals. When Tang Ao saw that martial artist, his gaze also focused because that martial artist was at the third level of the origin realm. Tang Ao hiddenly sighed in his heart. The speed at which these people used origin crystals to cultivate was too fast. Even now, martial artists at the third level of the origin realm frequently appeared. The guy at the third level of the origin realm clearly had quite a bit of fame in that area. After he appeared, quite a few surrounding martial artists exclaimed, "It's Senior Feng Kunlun." Tang Ao could sense that Feng Kunlun's aura was abnormally chaotic. It was obvious that he had used some shameful method to cultivate. Seeing the evil glint in his eyes, Tang Ao immediately understood that this guy was an evil cultivator who harvested yin to nourish yang. It was also because of this that the aura on his body was so chaotic. Chapter 1773. But just as Feng Kunlun was about to take out 100 yuan crystals, a playful voice suddenly sounded out. "I'll pay 10,000 yuan crystals. I want all 4 girls." The one who spoke was naturally Tang Ao. Although Feng Kunlun's appearance was a bit unexpected to Tang Ao, in Tang Ao's eyes, Feng Kunlun was just so. Not to mention that Tang Ao had already finished arranging the lightning array. If this Feng Kunlun was tired of living, then Tang Ao did not mind sending him on his way. Although Tang Ao's previous life was a demon that looked down on the world, but Tang Ao's cultivation was the result of hard work, and he had never used any evil cultivation methods. So seeing Feng Kunlun at this moment, Tang Ao was not very pleasing to the eye. But Tang Ao had come today to teach Drunken Goldhouse a lesson. So if Feng Kunlun was tactful, then Tang Ao would not bother with him. As soon as Tang Ao said this, Everyone's eyes were immediately attracted to Tang Ao. Before, when Tang Ao had saved Muyi, some people felt that there was something wrong with this Tang Ao. Now that they heard Tang Ao's words, how could they not understand that this Tang Ao was obviously here to cause trouble? But no one could understand how Tang Ao had the guts to come to Drunken Gold House to cause trouble. Before, when Tang Ao had saved Muyi, Luo Yunshang was not on the high platform. At this moment, when Luo Yunshang heard Tang Ao's voice, her eyes were filled with excitement. But soon, Luo Yunshang wanted Tang Ao to leave. This was because Luo Yunshang knew that this Drunken Gold House was not an ordinary place. Before, in Drunken Gold House, Luo Yunshang had personally seen a martial artist whose aura was no less than Lin Quantian's. Little bastard, do you really think this Tower Master doesn't dare to kill you? Originally, Chen Chunxing was going to teach Tang Ao a lesson after this, but now that Tang Ao was tired of living and jumped out, he didn't mind making Tang Ao bleed on the spot. The reason why Chen Chunxing was able to become the Manor Lord of the Intoxicated Gold Manor's Evergreen Market branch was because of his iron-blooded methods. Now that Tang Ao was deliberately looking for trouble, he wouldn't be Chen Chunxing if he let Tang Ao off. As for the 10,000 pieces of essence crystals that Tang Ao spoke of, that was simply nonsense. In the current Scarlet Wasteland, perhaps only the 8 great overlords had the ability to take out so many origin crystals. However, being able to take it out was one thing, and being able to take it out was another. As long as one had a brain, they would be able to figure out that no matter what, the 8 great overlords obviously wouldn't take out so many origin crystals for 4 women. Chen Chunxing was right. In the current Scarlet Wasteland, only the 8 great overlords could take out so many origin crystals. However, even the Liu family manor, the number 1 force in the Flying Star continent, only had a little over 20,000 pieces of essence crystals. For the Liu family manor to take out so many origin crystals at once, unless Liu Chuanjiao was crazy, it was absolutely impossible. Of course, in the current Scarlet Wasteland, although the Liu family manor had a lot of origin crystals, it wasn't the most. The force with the most origin crystals was naturally the 9-Colored Deer Merchant Guild. The 9-Colored Deer Merchant Guild had only invested 3,000 origin crystals to establish the Evergreen Market. However, after renting out the various shops and restaurants in the Evergreen Market, the 9-Colored Deer Merchant Guild had already earned back 30,000 origin crystals. Chapter 1774. After Tang Ao said that he would use 10,000 origin crystals to buy Luo Yunshang and the others, Feng Kunlun also looked at Tang Ao with a shady gaze. Although Feng Kunlun also understood that Tang Ao came here today to find trouble for the Drunken Gold Building, but Tang Ao did not seem to have good eyesight. He didn't look for trouble earlier or later, but he just had to look for trouble when Feng Kunlun came. Although it made him lose a lot of face at that moment, Feng Kunlun had no intentions of teaching Tang Ao a lesson. From Feng Kunlun's perspective, since Tang Ao offended Chen Chunxing, Tang Ao was already a dead person. Also, Feng Kunlun knew that there was also an old monster at the 3rd level of the Origin Realm in the Drunken Gold Building. Naturally, it was not Feng Kunlun's turn to show off his prowess in someone else's territory. So, at that time, Feng Kunlun chose to remain silent. At that time, Chen Chunxing's body flashed, and he pounced towards Tang Ao. At the same time that Chen Chunxing attacked, the 2 hidden 2nd-level Origin Realm martial artists also moved. At that moment, everyone already completely understood Tang Ao's cultivation. It was that the Tang Ao in front of them was only a mere 9th-level body refining Realm martial artist. It was very hard for everyone to imagine where a little 9th-level body refining Realm martial artist got the courage to provoke the Drunken Gold Building. Although the 3 Origin Realm martial artists from the Drunken Gold Building appeared, the other 2 only blocked Tang Ao's path of retreat and did not attack Tang Ao. After all, if this matter were to spread out, the Drunken Gold Building would lose a lot of face. A 9th-level body refining Realm brat was causing trouble in the Drunken Gold building, and the three experts of the Drunken Gold building actually had to attack together in order to take him down. That was definitely a very shameful matter. Seeing that the two people only watched with folded arms, a hint of a disdainful smile flashed past Tang Ao's eyes. Not to mention that Tang Ao's cultivation already broke into the first level of the Origin Realm. Even if Tang Ao was still at the peak of the 9th level of the Body Refinement Realm, the three of them would not be able to do anything to Tang Ao. Now that Qin Chunsheng had taken the initiative to court death, Tang Ao could only send him on his way. Little bastard, die for me. Qin Chuanxing's hand was like an eagle's claw as it descended from the sky towards Tang Ao. This claw was strong and domineering, as if it was going to crush Tang Ao's skull. In fact, this was a method that Qin Chunsheng often used. Qin Chunsheng had used this move to kill countless warriors. But this time, it was completely different from what Qin Chunsheng imagined. When Qin Chuanxing's claw slapped towards Tang Ao, Qin Chunsheng saw a trace of a disdainful smile on the corner of Tang Ao's mouth. At that moment, Qin Chunsheng felt a wave of astonishment in his heart. But looking at Tang Ao, who was getting closer and closer, Qin Chunsheng only lightly spat, acting mysterious. Shortly after, his speed increased by 30%, and he slapped towards Tang Ao. Seeing that scene, many warriors had a mocking smile on their faces. The target of their mockery was naturally Tang Ao. Although when the Evergreen Market was first established, the 9-Colored Deer Merchant Guild said that warriors were not allowed to fight within the Evergreen Market and that all grudges had to be dealt with in the arena. But that rule was clearly only suitable for an extremely small number of people. The Qin Chunsheng in front of them was a person who did not follow the rules. Chapter 1775. Zhuo Bufan also secretly sighed in his heart. Zhuo Bufan was still very appreciative of Tang Ao. Zhuo Bufan had already expected that Drunken Gold building would deal with Tang Ao, so Zhuo Bufan had originally planned to help Tang Ao when he left. It was just that Tang Ao was too reckless. There weren't many people in the Evergreen Market who could survive the joint attack of the three experts of the Intoxicated Gold Pavilion, and Tang Ao was obviously not one of these few people, so Tang Ao would undoubtedly die today. Compared to Zhuo Bufan, Muyi was not calm. The moment Qin Chunsheng made his move, Muyi's figure moved. If not for Tang Ao, he would certainly die today. Since this was the case, why not join forces with Tang Ao to take care of Qin Chunsheng? As long as the two of them could fight Qin Chunsheng to death, even if the two of them died here today, it could be considered as removing a scum from the Flying Star Continent. But Tang Ao clearly disappointed Muyi, because when Qin Chuanxing's claw slapped towards Tang Ao's head, Tang Ao, who was just standing below, suddenly disappeared. Tower Master Chun, be careful. The moment Tang Ao disappeared, Qin Chunxing was also shocked. With Qin Chuanxing's combat experience, Qin Chunxing naturally knew that Tang Ao did not really disappear, but because Tang Ao's movement technique was too fast, so fast that Qin Chuanxing's remembrance could not capture Tang Ao's figure. So it created the illusion that Tang Ao suddenly disappeared. After Tang Ao disappeared, Qin Chunxing didn't even have time to think about it. He turned his hand around and clawed at Tang Ao. When he clawed, Tang Ao's figure suddenly appeared. Under Qin Chuanxing's shocked gaze, Tang Ao suddenly chopped his wrist. Qin Chuanxing's arm went numb. Moreover, after Tang Ao chopped down, Tang Ao didn't let go immediately. Instead, he seized the opportunity to grab Qin Chuanxing's arm. Shortly after, Tang Ao flew up and struck Qin Chuanxing's chin with his knee. All of this happened in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. Qin Chunsheng didn't even have time to react before he was sent flying backward while spurting blood from his mouth. Such a scene caused all the surrounding martial artists to be shocked speechless. The Drunken Gold Pavilion's lord, Qin Chunsheng, was actually being beaten up by a martial artist at the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm. That's right. Even at this moment, Tang Ao's aura was still at the peak of the 9th level of the Body Refining Realm. That situation was very hard to accept. To know that in the past, It wasn't too realistic for a martial artist in the 9th level of the body refinement realm to fight against a martial artist in the 1st level of the origin realm. To fight against a martial artist in the 2nd level of the origin realm was simply a joke. But today, something that should never have happened right in front of them. So strong. Within the crowd, Zhuo Bufan looked at Tang Ao, who sent Qin Chunsheng flying with one strike, and he hiddenly praised in his heart. Originally, Zhuo Bufan felt that Tang Ao's actions were a bit rash. But now, Zhuo Bufan understood that Tang Ao wasn't rash at all. It was completely because he was skilled and daring. At that instant, after Qin Chunsheng was sent flying by Tang Ao's strike, the other 2 martial artists from the Drunken Gold Pavilion also instantly appeared in front of Tang Ao to prevent Tang Ao from continuing to chase after Qin Chunsheng. Asterisk bang. Asterisk after a muffled sound came from the ground. Qin Chunsheng also fiercely smashed onto the ground. On the limestone floor under Qin Chunsheng's body, there were even traces of cracks appearing. Asterisk Poochie. Asterisk after landing on the ground. Qin Chunsheng also spat out a large mouthful of blood. At the same time, 2 teeth also spat out along with the blood. Chapter 1776. Little bastard, if I don't turn your bones into dust today, my surname isn't Chun. At that moment, Qin Chunsheng clearly lost his mind due to anger. After saying that, he immediately charged towards Tang Ao. Originally, the other 2 elders of the Drunken Gold building wanted to stop Qin Chunsheng from killing Tang Ao. Since Tang Ao was able to injure Qin Chunsheng in the body refinement realm, there was clearly some unspeakable secret on Tang Ao's body. However, there were too many people and the 2 elders couldn't say it directly. So, the 2 of them could only attack together with Qin Chunsheng. In case Qin Chunsheng attacked, the 2 of them could save Qin Chunsheng in time. But what the 2 elders didn't expect was that Qin Chunsheng left quickly and returned even faster. Because when Qin Chunsheng once again rushed towards Tang Ao directly punched Qin Chunsheng's left shoulder and immediately kicked Qin Chunsheng with a whirlwind kick, sending Qin Chunsheng flying back. It was as if Qin Chunsheng's cultivation of the origin realm 2nd level not only couldn't suppress Tang Ao, but was instead suppressed by Tang Ao. Seeing that scene, the 2 immediately understood that Tang Ao was hiding his cultivation. Immediately, the 2 of them looked at each other and said, "Attack." The 2 of them joined the Drunken Gold building at the same time, and they did many missions in the Drunken Gold building. So, the 2 of them cooperated very well. In the instant Qin Chunsheng flew out, the 2 elders summoned their own fate spirits and charged towards Tang Ao. One of them had a fate spirit that was a thick shield that was half the height of a person. After summoning the huge shield, the Drunken Gold building elder held the shield and charged towards Tang Ao like a raging bull. A silver light flashed in Tang Ao's hand, and the 100 battle spear's spirit instantly appeared. Immediately after, Tang Ao pointed a spear towards the huge shield that was charging at him. Bang! With an explosive sound, Tang Ao's 100 battle spear soul actually cracked. This left Tang Ao feeling helpless. 100 battle spear soul was a life soul that Tang Ao often used, but now it was ridiculously weak. In just a single exchange, the life soul of the other party had shattered it. Just as Tang Ao's 100 battle spear soul was smashed by the shield, the other warrior's attack arrived in an instant. Tang Ao saw that the life soul summoned by the Drunken Gold Pavilion's other elder was a saber with a ghost's head. At this moment, the elder also swung the ghost head broadsword in his hand towards Tang Ao. In the face of this mountain-splitting blow, Tang Ao did not retreat. With a whip kick, the shield-wielding elder was forced back. Then, the silver axe in Tang Ao's hand was instantly taken out by Tang Ao. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Tang Ao actually held the axe and chopped towards the black-clothed elder's ghost head broadsword. Such a scene caused many people to be secretly startled. Everyone knew the strength of Elder Hei-Wan. It was absolutely not something that Qin Chunsheng could compare to. Although Qin Chunsheng was the owner of this branch of the Drunken Gold Pavilion, the status of these two elders was higher than Qin Chunsheng. This was because they were both elders of the main branch of the Drunken Gold Pavilion. The elder who used the Ghost Head Blade was called Ma Ji. Not long ago, Ma Ji used the Ghost Head Blade to kill 16 black fog monsters at the second level of the Origin Realm. Also because of that battle, Ma Ji became a hot character in the current Blood Wasteland. However, because the Drunken Gold building was special, Ma Ji was a bit low-key. At that moment, when Ma Ji saw that Tang Ao only held a broken axe and dared to fight against his Ghost Head broadsword, Ma Ji sneered in his heart. If Ma Ji wasn't absolutely sure that Tang Ao had some secret on his body, he would have definitely chopped off Tang Ao's head. But now, Ma Ji naturally would not kill Tang Ao. Although he would not kill Tang Ao, Ma Ji would definitely cut off Tang Ao's entire right arm. That would also be an interesting thing. In the instant that Ma Ji got close to Tang Ao, everyone saw Ma Ji's blade suddenly slash downwards. At such a close distance, everyone already knew what was going to happen next. Some of the spectating female martial artists even subconsciously narrowed their eyes because the following scene was too bloody. At such a short distance, Tang Ao would not be able to dodge Ma Ji's attack, and Ma Ji's Ghost Blade was already known for its strange transformations. At that moment, as Ma Ji's blade slashed downwards, Tang Ao's entire right arm would be gone. If Ma Ji wanted to kill Tang Ao at that moment, he could slash the Ghost Head broadsword in his hand and even cut Tang Ao in half. Chapter 1777. Because of Tang Ao's stunning performance just now, the spectating martial artists in the intoxicated gold and already admitted Tang Ao's strength. No matter if Tang Ao hid his cultivation or used some secret technique, everyone admitted that the current Tang Ao had the strength to fight against a second-level Origin Realm martial artist. However, when Tang Ao faced Ma Ji, he underestimated his enemy too much. No matter what the reason was, Tang Ao should not have been so casual. Besides, Ma Ji's Ghost Head Blade was not that easy to deal with. However, something that no one expected happened. After Tang Ao's casual swing of the axe, Ma Ji, who was splitting Mount Hua, suddenly stopped his movements. At that moment, everyone's eyes were filled with confusion and confusion. Clearly, Tang Ao's move was full of flaws. If Ma Ji wanted to, he could split Tang Ao into two at any time. However, just at that time, Ma Ji, who was holding the Ghost Head Blade with both hands, stopped. Slowly, the crowd of onlookers could see the fear in Ma Ji's eyes. When some sharp-eyed martial artists looked at Ma Ji again, they discovered that there was an additional line of blood on Ma Ji's throat. At the same time, Ma Ji's Ghost Head Blade was instantly split into two. At that moment, everyone thought of an extremely unbelievable possibility. That was, just now, Tang Ao's casual swing of the axe not only blocked Ma Ji's Ghost Head Blade. After breaking the blade, he even slit Ma Ji's throat. Was this really something that a blunt weapon like the axe could do? At that moment, that question appeared in the hearts of many martial artists. However, there were also some knowledgeable martial artists that could see that the devil-slaying axe in Tang Ao's hand was not a fate spirit, but a treasure. Greed quickly appeared in the eyes of the martial artists that could see it. Normally speaking, a martial artist's fate spirit could not be taken, but spirit artifacts and other treasures could be taken very easily. If the devil-slaying axe was one of Tang Ao's fate spirits, then perhaps these people would fear Tang Ao, but they would definitely not have any thoughts towards Tang Ao. However, it was different now. The demon-slaying axe was clearly a very powerful treasure. Ma Ji's Ghost Head Blade Life Soul was a powerful life soul from the 13th firmament. But even such a life soul was split apart by Tang Ao with a casual swing of his axe. With Tang Ao's current cultivation, it was clearly impossible for him to achieve such a level. Hence, this was all thanks to the power of the demon-slaying axe. Previously, when the demon-beheading axe was in Lin Quantian's hands, Tang Ao already knew that the demon-beheading axe was extremely powerful. Now that the demon-beheading axe was in his hands, Tang Ao deeply understood that this demon beheading axe was not just powerful, it was terrifyingly powerful. Moreover, at this time, the inscription array inside the devil-slaying axe was almost destroyed. If it was at its peak, Tang Ao could not imagine how terrifying the devil-slaying axe would be. Go to hell. After Tang Ao chopped Ma Ji to death with his axe, the shield-wielding martial artist once again raised his shield and swept it towards Tang Ao. This time, Tang Ao did not talk nonsense with him. He directly raised the demon-slaying axe and slashed at him. Just now, this shield had caused cracks to appear on the 100 battle spear soul, but now, under the demon-slaying axe, it was like a piece of paper. Chapter 1778. The three people from the Drunken Gold building who had an overbearing aura just now had 2 killed by Tang Ao and 1 heavily injured. At this time, how could everyone not understand that Tang Ao was not a lunatic? He was a vicious person who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. After the 2 elders were consecutively killed by Tang Ao, Chen Chunsheng was already scared out of his wits. At that moment, Chen Chunsheng did not have the guts to continue fighting Tang Ao. Seeing Tang Ao look at him, Chen Chunsheng did not hesitate and wanted to run. But just as Chen Chunsheng was about to run, an old and deep voice suddenly came from the Drunken Gold building. Which blind thing dares to behave atrociously in my Drunken Gold building? After Chen Chunsheng heard the voice, he reacted. There was no need for him to run. Although he did not have the qualifications to command this Elder Yuan. If someone came to the Drunken Gold building to cause trouble, this Elder Yuan would obviously not sit and do nothing. Chen Chunsheng did not believe that Tang Ao was that evil. Forget about a mere body refining realm martial artist being able to deal with a second-level origin realm martial artist. Chen Chunsheng did not believe that Tang Ao could deal with a third-level origin realm martial artist today. The martial artist who spoke was one of the 5 grand elders of the Drunken Gold building, Yuan Taichu. This Elder Yuan was from the first batch of martial artists that came to the Bloody Wastelands, so he had the cultivation of the third-level origin realm. But it was different from Ma Ji and Ma Ji. Ma Ji and Ma Ji were sent by the head of the Drunken Gold building to assist him, so he could order them around. However, this Elder Yuan Taichu's status was even higher than the head of the Drunken Gold building. Naturally, Chen Chunsheng did not have the qualifications to order him around, or else Chen Chunsheng's first thought would definitely not be to run, but to ask this Elder Yuan Taichu to teach Tang Ao a lesson. But Chen Chunsheng did not know if he could see this Elder Yuan Taichu. If he was killed by Tang Ao without even seeing Elder Yuan Taichu's face, his death would be too unjust. Luckily, at that moment, Yuan Taichu could not sit still anymore. Although Yuan Taichu was in closed-door cultivation, Chen Chunsheng didn't believe that the old man couldn't hear anything with such a big commotion outside. Elder Yuan, this person is extremely arrogant. Not only did he cause trouble in the intoxicated gold pavilion, but he also killed 2 elders, Ma Ji, one after another. Elder Yuan, please kill this person. Chen Chunsheng was obviously traumatized by Tang Ao. As soon as Yuan Taichu appeared, Chen Chunsheng immediately went to Yuan Taichu's side. Seeing Chen Chunsheng's appearance, Yuan Taichu was very dissatisfied. Although the Drunken Gold House in the Evergreen Market Square was only one of the many branches of the Drunken Gold House, if Chen Chunsheng was such a waste, then he really wasn't suitable to be the owner of the Drunken Gold House. Just now, when Tang Ao killed Ma Ji and Ma Ji, Yuan Taichu observed Tang Ao. Although he didn't know what method Tang Ao used to conceal his cultivation, Yuan Taichu still determined that Tang Ao's cultivation should be at the first level of the origin realm, and not the 9th level of the body refinement realm that he displayed. Originally, Ma Ji and Ma Ji cooperated extremely well. In addition to Chen Chunsheng, with the 3 of them joining hands, no matter how strong Tang Ao was, he would not have a good ending. But sadly, no matter if it was Chen Chunsheng or Ma Ji, in their eyes, Tang Ao was only a weak martial artist at the 9th level of the body refinement realm. And because of that, Ma Ji and Ma Ji already lost their lives. Chapter 1779. So at that time, Yuan Taichu prepared to outsmart Tang Ao. If it was any other place, perhaps it would not be that easy for Yuan Taichu to take down Tang Ao. But right now, it was the Drunken Gold Building. It was his territory. In that situation, if he, Yuan Taichu, was still not that small Tang Ao, there was no need for him to cultivate. Of course, it wasn't because he had the help of the Drunken Gold Building's martial artists in the Drunken Gold Building. It was because back then, in order to stand firm in the bloody wasteland, the Drunken Gold Building laid a puppet-killing formation in the Evergreen Market Square. The puppet-killing formation was obtained by the Drunken Gold Building's martial artists in an ancient remnant. It was extremely strong. Using a treasure like that to take care of Tang Ao was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. So, Yuan Taichu was still hesitating. Should he personally take down Tang Ao, or should he borrow the puppet-killing formation to kill Tang Ao to establish his might? After all, the puppet-killing formation needed to be laid beforehand before it could be used. If it was exposed this time, he would not be able to absorb enemies into the Drunken Gold Building in the future. After all, laying the puppet-killing formation required a period of time. So, it was impossible to take it out to fight against enemies at any time. If he met some powerful opponents, it was very possible that he would be killed before the puppet-killing formation was even laid. After thinking for a while, Yuan Taichu still decided to personally test Tang Ao's depth. If he really could not deal with Tang Ao's silver-colored axe, then he would use the puppet-killing formation to kill Tang Ao. Although that would expose the existence of the puppet-killing formation, as long as Tang Ao died, Tang Ao's demon beheading axe would naturally be his. Brother Tang Ao. This person is the Drunken Gold Building's supreme elder, Yuan Taichu. He has the cultivation of the third level of the Origin Realm. Quickly retreat. Once you escape, Yuan Taichu will definitely chase after you. At that time, we'll help you save Miss Luo Yunshang. From the way Luo Yunshang looked at Tang Ao, and the way Luo Yunshang bit the tip of her tongue just now, because of Tang Ao, Zhuo Bufan knew that the relationship between Luo Yunshang and Tang Ao must be extraordinary, and it was very likely that Tang Ao had come for Luo Yunshang. If it were before, Tang Ao would definitely agree to Zhuo Bufan's proposal. However, right now, Tang Ao felt that there was no need for him to escape. So what if he was at the third level of the Origin Realm? Today, Tang Ao was in a fight against the third level of the Origin Realm. However, Tang Ao didn't notice that there was an ancient era's puppet formation here. Otherwise, Tang Ao wouldn't be so arrogant as to fight with Yuan Taichu here. Yuan Taichu's fate spirit was very interesting. It was a huge hook, and around the hook, there were waves of special soul remembrance undulations. Just by looking at the posture, Tang Ao knew that this fate spirit would directly attack the soul. The fate spirits in the Big Thousand World were a very special existence. These fate spirits had all sorts of forms and had all sorts of strange uses. Different fate spirits could have different effects in the hands of a martial artist. Since there were too many fate spirits and the Big Thousand World was too vast, no martial artist dared to say that they knew all the fate spirits in the Big Thousand World, or even the majority of them. Like the fate spirit of Yuan Taichu, Tang Ao had never seen it before. Yuan Taichu was very straightforward. After deciding to attack Tang Ao, he swung the long hook in his hand and attacked Tang Ao. Chapter 1780. Yuan Taichu's attack caught Tang Ao off guard. At such a close distance, Yuan Taichu instantly raised his hook and struck Tang Ao's left rib. Indeed, just as Tang Ao had imagined, the hook was indeed an attack on the soul. After being struck by the hook, Tang Ao's head buzzed as his consciousness momentarily blanked out. Tang Ao knew that it was because his psyche was too powerful that he could wake up so quickly. Otherwise, if an ordinary warrior were to be struck by Yuan Taichu, they would probably not wake up in a few seconds. After Tang Ao woke up, he instantly distanced himself from Yuan Taichu. Although Yuan Taichu's life, soul, could attack from afar and engage in melee combat, Tang Ao still wanted to maintain a certain distance from Yuan Taichu. He would make a decision after Tang Ao studied Yuan Taichu's life soul thoroughly. At a distance, although Yuan Taichu could attack Tang Ao, with Tang Ao's powerful psyche perception, Tang Ao could easily dodge Yuan Taichu's attack. However, if the distance was too close, it would be difficult for Tang Ao to dodge. Although Yuan Taichu's life soul would only cause Tang Ao to experience a short period of dizziness, Tang Ao knew that under such circumstances, such a short period of dizziness was extremely dangerous. If Yuan Taichu had seized the opportunity, Tang Ao would definitely have been severely injured by Yuan Taichu. Since Yuan Taichu's hook life soul specialized in restraining souls, Tang Ao's mind stirred as chains appeared from the void and slowly trembled around Tang Ao. These chains were naturally Tang Ao's 10,000 ghost soul lock. Just like Yuan Taichu's hook life soul, these 10,000 ghost soul lock were also specialized in attacking souls. However, unlike Yuan Taichu's hook life soul, Tang Ao's 10,000 ghost soul lock could not only attack the souls of living beings, but it also had a certain restraining effect on life souls. Just as Yuan Taichu swung his hook fiercely at Tang Ao again, Tang Ao waved his hand, and 4 pitch-black chains collided with Yuan Taichu's hook. With a crisp ring, Yuan Taichu's Yin Soul Hook Life Soul was knocked back by the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock. After summoning the 10,000 Ghost Lock, Tang Ao also discovered that the aura of Yuan Taichu's Yin Spirit Hook was very similar to the 10,000 Ghost Lock. The Yin Spirit Hook Life Soul seemed to be a type of Yin Nether Life Soul. Tang Ao had obtained the recognition of the Underworld Life Soul. In theory, Tang Ao could completely control all Underworld Life Souls. However, Tang Ao didn't know why, but he couldn't sense Yuan Taichu's Yin Soul Hook Life Soul through the Underworld Life Soul. Under the perception of the Underworld Life Soul, Tang Ao could clearly see the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock, as well as the Yin Nether Life Souls of the surrounding warriors. However, Tang Ao couldn't sense Yuan Taichu's life soul. As long as Tang Ao's underworld life soul could sense it, Tang Ao could control this life soul. Since the underworld life soul couldn't sense this life soul, Tang Ao could only use other means to compete with Yuan Taichu. Yuan Taichu didn't think much of Tang Ao summoning the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock, but when the 10,000 Ghost Soul Lock blocked his Yin Soul Hook, Yuan Taichu hesitated for a moment. A ghostly blue light condensed in his right hand as he summoned the Hell Hammer Life Soul. Chapter 1781. However, at that moment, Tang Ao had never seen either of Yuan Taichu's 2 life souls. And when Tang Ao was dealing with Yuan Taichu, Tang Ao didn't use the demon-slaying axe. It wasn't that Tang Ao didn't want to use it, but that the demon-slaying axe hadn't been refined by Tang Ao. Tang Ao's use of the demon-slaying axe drained too much of his primordial energy and psyche. Furthermore, just as everyone imagined, the axe was a blunt weapon that needed to be charged up. Although the demon-slaying axe was abnormally agile in Tang Ao's hands when he killed Ma Ji and Tang Ao, it was because the duo's strength was much weaker than Tang Ao's. Therefore, Tang Ao could use the demon-slaying axe with ease. But at that moment, Yuan Taichu was different. Be it his cultivation level, combat experience, or even his life soul, Yuan Taichu was much stronger than the duo. After Yuan Taichu summoned Gehenna's hammer, he didn't use the Yin Soul Hook to attack. Instead, his figure flew towards Tang Ao like a ghost. With a thought, Tang Ao summoned the Azure Lotus Sword Soul. Yuan Taichu's Yin Soul Hook Life Soul was too strange, so Tang Ao was absolutely unwilling to engage in close combat with Yuan Taichu. Furthermore, Yuan Taichu had summoned Gehenna's hammer. Tang Ao didn't know what use the Gehenna's hammer life soul had. Go! Tang Ao pointed with his sword fingers as the 7 Azure Lotus swords behind Tang Ao immediately whizzed towards Yuan Taichu. Facing the 7 unparalleled green lotus swords, Yuan Taichu directly raised Gehenna's hammer and hammered it into the void. Dong! Yuan Taichu clearly didn't hit anything, but everyone clearly heard a dull thud coming from the void. Buffed. After the muffled sound rang out, the spectating martial artists felt their chests tighten. Soon after, they spat out mouthfuls of blood. It was as if Yuan Taichu's hammer had smashed into them. Tang Ao, who bore the brunt of the attack, was also pale. However, compared to these martial artists who were vomiting blood, Tang Ao's situation was much better. Although the hammer strike from Yuan Taichu had made Tang Ao feel a tightness in his chest, Tang Ao knew that the hammer had also directly attacked his soul. At this time, Tang Ao had basically figured out Yuan Taichu's attack methods. It seemed that all of Yuan Taichu's martial skill life spirits directly attacked the martial artist's soul. This was because the soul was a martial artist's most fundamental and weakest point. If a martial artist could directly attack the soul, then such a martial artist would undoubtedly be very terrifying. However, this was only relatively speaking. Through the battle, just now, Tang Ao had already discovered that. Be it Yuan Taichu's Yin Soul Hook Life Soul or Yin Master Hammer Life Soul, they required Yuan Taichu's psyche to augment them. In other words, the power of the Yin Soul Hook and Yin Master Hammer was completely dependent on the difference between Yuan Taichu's psyche and the warrior's psyche. If Yuan Taichu's soul remembrance was far stronger than the martial artist he was fighting, then Yuan Taichu probably would have just taken out his Gehenna hammer and violently swung it. Then, the martial artist fighting Yuan Taichu would have been shaken to death. This was also why Yuan Taichu had clearly attacked Tang Ao, but the surrounding warriors all vomited blood while Tang Ao only felt a little uncomfortable. Chapter 1782. However, what Yuan Taichu didn't understand was why Tang Ao's psyche was so powerful when he was only at the first level of the origin martial realm. Just a moment ago, he had launched a surprise attack, causing many of the surrounding martial artists to be hit, but Tang Ao acted as if nothing had happened to him. What Yuan Taichu didn't know was that Tang Ao's psyche was stronger than his. If not for Tang Ao's shattered soul C, Yuan Taichu would have injured himself by using Gehenna's hammer against Tang Ao. After knowing the uniqueness of Yuan Taichu's 2 life souls, Tang Ao felt a lot more at ease. By now, Tang Ao already knew that although Yuan Taichu's 2 life souls were strange, they didn't pose much of a threat to him. If not for the fact that his soul C hadn't been completely repaired, Tang Ao felt that he could even ignore Yuan Taichu's attack. Now, even though Tang Ao's soul C was still in a shattered state, Tang Ao wasn't afraid of Yuan Taichu's life soul. Now, as long as Tang Ao wasn't directly hit by the Yin Soul Hook, the Yin Soul Hook would be useless against Tang Ao. Although Yuan Taichu could use the Yin Soul Hook to quickly change his position, if Yuan Taichu didn't have any other means of attack, it would be useless no matter how agile he was. This was because Tang Ao's 9 dragons Emperor Jade Body happened to restrain Yuan Taichu's 2 strange life souls. However, Tang Ao didn't know if Gehenna's hammer had other means of attack. Otherwise, if Gehenna's hammer could only unleash an attack of the same level as before, Tang Ao could directly ignore Gehenna's attack. In fact, Yuan Taichu's 2 life souls weren't simple. They were ancient life souls that Yuan Taichu had awakened in an ancient ruin by chance. The power of this ancient life soul far exceeded Tang Ao's imagination. However, Yuan Taichu was just too useless. Even though he had successfully awakened the 2 ancient life souls, Yuan Taichu hadn't been able to unleash their full might. But even so, relying on these 2 ancient fate spirits, Yuan Taichu still managed to kill a martial artist at the 3rd level of the origin realm who had fought with him for treasures in the ruins. This was also the first martial artist at the 3rd level of the origin realm to die in the Flying Star Continent since the appearance of the Bloody Wasteland. It was also because he killed a martial artist at the 3rd level of the origin realm that Yuan Taichu was very confident when he fought against Tang Ao. However, from the start of the battle until now, Yuan Taichu discovered that his two ancient fate spirits were more than enough to deal with a martial artist at the third level of the origin realm, but at that moment, they were not that useful against Tang Ao. Bang! At that moment, Yuan Taichu smashed out with Gehenna's hammer again. In the instant that Gehenna's hammer was smashed out, Yuan Taichu's spirit hook life soul also directly hooked towards Tang Ao. Facing Yuan Taichu's hook, Tang Ao immediately dodged to the side. After Tang Ao dodged Yuan Taichu's spirit hook, Yuan Taichu suddenly appeared at the position of the spirit hook without any warning. At the same time, without any hesitation, Yuan Taichu raised Gehenna's hammer and fiercely smashed it towards Tang Ao. Kacha. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Yuan Taichu's hammer actually directly covered Tang Ao with cracks. Chapter 1783. The rapidly changing situation of the battle also caused the surrounding martial artists' emotions to fluctuate. They never would have thought that a martial artist at the first level of the origin realm could fight against a martial artist at the third level of the origin realm to such an extent. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. After Tang Ao used the polar eyes to freeze the Gehenna hammer and the Yin soul, hook life soul, the ice continued to seal Yuan Taichu. Yuan Taichu panicked and quickly let go of the Gehenna hammer and the Yin soul hook. A life soul was different from a spiritual artifact. A spiritual artifact could be easily taken away, but for a life soul, as long as the warrior who awakened the life soul didn't die, it was almost impossible to take it away. But now, the impossible was about to happen, because after Yuan Taichu let go of the two life souls, Tang Ao's underworld life soul could clearly feel the two life souls. Moreover, the underworld life soul transmitted an emotion, as if it wanted to devour the two life souls. Although Yuan Taichu's two life souls didn't pose much of a threat to Tang Ao, if the underworld life soul could devour the two life souls, it would be easier for Tang Ao to deal with Yuan Taichu. Therefore, with a thought from Tang Ao, a dark void door suddenly appeared in front of Tang Ao. When the void door appeared, everyone felt as if the world had darkened, and the surrounding atmosphere was extremely stifling. Some warriors with weak wills felt their souls tremble, as if they couldn't believe that there was such a terrifying life soul in this world. Although Tang Ao couldn't use the underworld life soul as he pleased, it was a top life soul of the 36 levels of heaven after all. Its power was naturally not to be underestimated. The moment Tang Ao summoned the underworld life spirit, all the martial artists and demonic beasts within 1,000 miles felt their hearts palpitate. As for the martial artists watching the battle in the Drunken Gold House, they didn't even dare to breathe heavily. At that moment, everyone saw a crack suddenly appear on the void door of the underworld life soul. Immediately, the ice on the Yin soul hook and the Gehenna hammer melted. Then, under Yuan Taichu's horrified gaze, his Yin soul hook and Gehenna hammer were actually sucked into the underworld life soul. After devouring the Yin soul hook and the underworld life soul, the underworld life soul also slowly dissipated. After the underworld life soul dissipated, the palpitations in everyone's hearts also disappeared. But at that moment, Yuan Taichu spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't know what was going on. Just a moment ago, he saw a void door suddenly appear beside Tang Ao. This void door seemed to be connected to the netherworld, causing his heart to palpitate. Furthermore, the two ancient life souls that he had awakened with great difficulty in the ancient ruins had been devoured by this void door. At that moment, Yuan Taichu couldn't sense the existence of the Yin soul hook and Gehenna hammer at all. These two life souls were Yuan Taichu's most important means. Now that the Yin soul hook and Gehenna hammer were gone, Yuan Taichu looked at Tang Ao with bloodshot eyes. His angry gaze looked as if he wanted to eat Tang Ao up. Chapter 1784. Those puppets were emitting powerful auras. Basically, they were all at the first or second level of the origin realm. However, There was also a portion of puppets that reached the third level of the origin realm. After seeing that, Tang Ao was secretly surprised. Other people didn't know what it was, but Tang Ao knew that it was a puppet slaughter formation. If Tang Ao wanted to, Tang Ao could also lay a formation like that. However, due to the special nature of the puppet slaughter formation, he couldn't use void formation runes. He could only lay it with traditional methods. Also, the layout of the puppet slaughter formation was extremely complicated. So, Tang Ao knew that the puppet slaughter formation had been laid long ago. It wasn't something that Yuan Taichu laid at the last minute. After seeing the puppet slaughter formation, Tang Ao thought that he was too careless. Due to the existence of the Evergreen Valley, many abnormal things appeared on the Facian continent. A high-level formation like the puppet slaughter formation shouldn't have appeared here. At that moment, the auras of the puppets in the puppet slaughter formation weren't very strong. Naturally, they weren't very threatening to Tang Ao. However, Tang Ao knew that within the puppet slaughter formation, the puppets couldn't be truly killed. As long as the formation couldn't be broken, the puppets would constantly be repaired. Different formation masters laid different puppet slaughter formations. So, even though Tang Ao recognized that it was a puppet slaughter formation, Tang Ao really didn't have any way to break it in such a short amount of time. Elder Yuan Taichu, this isn't related to us. Elder Yuan, please let us out. At that moment, the puppet slaughter formation covered the entire Drunken Gold building. Not only Tang Ao, but all the cultivators that came to the Drunken Gold building were trapped within the puppet slaughter formation. However, Yuan Taichu obviously didn't care about the cultivators' thoughts. Kill. His two most important fate spirits were devoured by Tang Ao using some unknown method. Yuan Taichu's entire person was like a crazy demon. In order to obtain those two fate spirits, Yuan Taichu paid a great price. But now, his two ancient fate spirits were taken by Tang Ao. At that moment, Yuan Taichu only wanted to kill Tang Ao. Yuan Taichu even regretted a bit. From the information he got from the ancient ruins, he knew that the two ancient fate spirits were far more powerful than that. But now, he didn't even have the time to study the two ancient fate spirits thoroughly before they were gone. If he had known that Tang Ao was so powerful, he wouldn't have the idea of testing Tang Ao. He would use the puppet slaughter formation to Tang Ao. Although the formation was laid by a formation masters of the Drunken Golden Formation Masters in Yuan Clan's S, and he could slaughter. E-formation. Slaughter. After all, the grade of this puppet killing array had already exceeded the understanding of the Drunken Gold Manners array masters. At this moment, Yuan Taichu wanted all the puppets to surround and kill Tang Ao. However, after Yuan Taichu issued this order, the puppets within the puppet killing array suddenly started slaughtering the cultivators within the range of the barrier. This scene caused a crowd of martial artists to be shocked. Elder Yuan, what do you mean by this? Facing the puppet's attack, a cultivator roared angrily. However, before he could finish speaking, a sharp spear in the hands of a puppet had already pierced his throat. At that moment, the entire Drunken Golden building was filled with screams. Many of the cultivators were also fighting with the puppets. Chapter 1785. The most important thing was that the puppet killing formation was a bit strange. The higher the cultivation of the martial artist, the more they would be surrounded and attacked by the numerous puppets with high cultivation. Also, the puppets attacking the martial artist and the martial artist being attacked would have the same cultivation. At that instant, around Feng Kunlun, there were 3 puppets at the 3rd level of the origin realm attacking him. At first, Feng Kunlun used methods to destroy one of the puppets, but before Feng Kunlun could be happy, the puppet immediately recovered in front of Feng Kunlun. Because of that, Feng Kunlun was so furious. Right now, although the puppets could not harm him, the puppets could not be killed. Instead, his essence was constantly being consumed. As time passed, his essence would be completely consumed. Wouldn't that mean that he would become a fish on the chopping block? But after Feng Kunlun furiously yelled, Yuan Taichu still did not open the spirit formation. Of course, it was not that Yuan Taichu did not want to open the spirit formation. At that instant, Yuan Taichu also saw that there was a problem with the spirit formation. It was because every time the puppets killed a martial artist, the martial artist's soul would be absorbed into the puppets' bodies. Then, the puppets that absorbed the martial artist's soul would emit an evil and strange aura. Seeing this scene, Tang Ao frowned. At this moment, Tang Ao discovered that he had misjudged this spirit array. This spirit array was not a puppet-killing spirit array, but a demonic sacrificial spirit array. And the sacrificial offerings were the flesh and souls of these cultivators. Tang Ao saw that the martial artists that were killed by the puppets would immediately have their souls devoured by the puppets. Their flesh and blood would also turn into black smoke and merge into the puppets' bodies. After devouring the martial artists' souls and absorbing the black smoke, Tang Ao astonishingly discovered that the puppets had the aura of life. Tang Ao knew that the drunken gold building thought that they got a treasure, but they never would have thought that they didn't get a treasure. They became someone else's wedding dress. At that time, when Tang Ao looked at Yuan Taichu again, he saw that Yuan Taichu had an extra small puppet that wore dark red blood armor. The little puppet was shrouded in a black, evil aura, making it look extremely strange. It seemed as though the little puppet was used to control the killing puppet formation. At that moment, Yuan Taichu was constantly urging the little puppet in an attempt to open up the spirit formation. Of course, it wasn't because Yuan Taichu wanted to let everyone leave. It was because there were also 3 puppets at the 3rd level of the origin realm attacking him. Furthermore, due to the consecutive loss of the Yin Soul Hook Life Soul and the Hell Hammer Life Soul, Yuan Taichu was already in a mess. Under the encirclement of the 3 puppets at the 3rd level of the origin realm, Yuan Taichu was surrounded by danger. Yuan Taichu couldn't imagine that things would turn out like this. This time, he had continuously lost the Yin Soul Hook Life Soul and Yin Master Hammer Life Soul that he had awakened with great difficulty. Even the puppet-killing array he had obtained from the Drunken Golden Manor seemed to be problematic. As time passed, more and more warriors died tragically under the siege of the puppets. Chapter 1786. Tang Ao's heart skipped a beat. Tang Ao casually made a hand seal and released the seal on Luo Yunshang's body. After the seal was released, Luo Yunshang threw herself into Tang Ao's embrace. Tang Ao hugged Luo Yunshang and patted her back. He softly said, "Little sister Yunshang, it's fine now." Although he said that, Tang Ao really didn't know how to break the spirit formation. Under the inspection of Tang Ao's celestial polarity eyes, there was no way to break through the spirit formation. Compared to the spirit formation the 4 people laid in Linhu City, the spirit formation of the puppet-killing formation was not just a little bit stronger. Tang Ao felt that even if he used the demon beheading axe, he wouldn't be able to break through the spirit formation. As long as one was within the spirit formation, they would be attacked by the puppets. After a while, another 2 puppets at the 1st level of the origin martial realm arrived in front of Tang Ao. After arriving next to Tang Ao, the 2 puppets raised the sharp spears in their hands and fiercely stabbed towards Tang Ao. Tang Ao slightly leaned to the side while holding Luo Yunshang, then pushed out with his palm. The 2 puppets were smashed into pieces by Tang Ao's palm. Tang Ao could feel that although they were puppets at the 1st level of the origin realm, the puppets at the 1st level of the origin realm were a bit weaker than the weakest ones at the 1st level of the origin realm. Because of that, they couldn't even withstand a single palm from Tang Ao. In reality, Tang Ao underestimated the 2 puppets too much. Just like what Tang Ao observed before, the 2 puppets that attacked Tang Ao had the same cultivation as Tang Ao. They were both at the early stage of the 1st level of the origin martial realm. Because of that, Tang Ao felt that the 2 puppets were too weak. One had to know that although Tang Ao was only at the 1st level of the origin martial realm, Tang Ao's fighting strength was not inferior to a 3rd level of the origin martial realm. In a situation like that, even if the two puppets wanted to be stronger, they couldn't do it. Although the puppets couldn't harm Tang Ao didn't want to stay here for too long. But now that Tang Ao was trapped in the spirit formation, it wasn't easy for Tang Ao to leave. Moreover, the puppets that had devoured the souls and flesh of the warriors gave Tang Ao a kind of palpitating feeling. At this moment, the bodies of these puppets were emitting bursts of black smoke. They were sitting cross-legged on the ground, motionless. However, there seemed to be something awakening within their bodies. Before, Tang Ao used void formation runes to lay a lightning guiding formation in the Drunken Gold building. But because of the spirit formation, Tang Ao couldn't feel the existence of the lightning guiding formation. Otherwise, Tang Ao could also use the lightning guiding formation to break the spirit formation. One had to know that lightning was the nemesis of spirit formations. However, right now, Tang Ao couldn't feel the existence of the lightning guiding formation. So, naturally, Tang Ao couldn't use the lightning guiding formation. At that time, 3 puppets at the 9th level of the body refining realm suddenly appeared, and they rushed towards Luo Yunshang. The Green Lotus Sword Soul, behind Tang Ao, shot out 2 beams of Green Lotus Sword Chi. Before the 3 body refining realm level 9 puppets could get close, they were all cut in half by the Green Lotus Sword Chi. However, just like before, no matter how many times the puppets were destroyed in the spirit formation, they could recover to their original state. Very quickly, the 2 puppets at the 1st level of the Origin Martial Realm and the 3 puppets that had been cut into 2 by Tang Ao all stood up and surrounded Tang Ao and Luo Yunshang. Tang Ao wasn't worried about these puppets because with Tang Ao's current strength, these puppets couldn't harm him and Luo Yunshang. What truly worried Tang Ao was the puppets that were sitting on the ground and continuously emitting black smoke. Under Tang Ao's soul remembrance, these puppets that were emitting black smoke had life auras. Moreover, the evil undulations on their bodies were getting stronger. Tang Ao faintly felt that if he didn't think of a way to leave this place, something terrifying would happen in a bit. Immediately, Tang Ao took out the demon beheading axe. At that moment, Tang Ao was a bit regretful that he didn't find time to refine the demon beheading axe after getting it for so long. Chapter 1787. After taking out the devil beheading axe, Tang Ao carried Luo Yunshang to the edge of the barrier. Immediately, Tang Ao held the devil beheading axe in his right hand and slashed at the barrier. However, when Tang Ao's heavy axe slashed at the barrier, not only did the barrier not show any signs of breaking, but Tang Ao and Luo Yunshang were also sent flying back. So powerful, Tang Ao secretly exclaimed in his heart. This level of barrier was definitely not something that the array masters of the Flying Star Continent could set up. At this moment, Tang Ao could already imagine that the martial artists of the Drunken Gold Pavilion must have obtained a complete array disc and buried it under the ground of the Drunken Gold Pavilion, according to the instructions. As for this barrier, it had long been in the array disc. The array flags that the array masters of the Drunken Gold Pavilion had set up were only to activate the puppet-killing array in the array disc. Tang Ao did not know who left this array disc, but Tang Ao could imagine that the person who left such an array disc was certainly not a good person. Otherwise, they would not deliberately leave an array disc to harm others. At this moment, this array was activated in the Drunken Gold Pavilion, and the range of the barrier was not very large. If the array disc was placed in the center of the Evergreen Market, and the atmosphere covered by the barrier was also the entire Evergreen Market, it was hard for Tang Ao to imagine how many martial artists would die in this puppet-killing array. However, even now, there were no less than 100 martial artists who had died in the puppet-killing array. This was because at this moment, there were already more than 100 puppets sitting on the ground with their bodies emitting black smoke. Senior Brother Tang Ao, what do we do now? After seeing that even Tang Ao could not break this barrier, a trace of worry flashed in Luo Yunshang's eyes. After all, Tang Ao had fallen into this dangerous situation because he wanted to save her. If Tang Ao also died here today, then even if Luo Yunshang died here, even if she died, she would not be able to rest in peace. Tang Ao was already the best alchemist on the Flying Star continent at such a young age. Moreover, Tang Ao still had La Kale, whom he was deeply in love with, and many of his fellow disciples. Tang Ao's future was still too exciting. He really shouldn't fall in this place. Tang Ao naturally saw through Luo Yunshang's worries. Immediately, Tang Ao stroked Luo Yunshang's long hair from behind. "Don't worry, you've already called me Big Brother. As a big brother, I naturally have to protect my little sister." Although Tang Ao and Luo Yunshang's actions were a little intimate, Luo Yunshang did not dislike Tang Ao. It seemed that in Luo Yunshang's heart, she really regarded Tang Ao as her own big brother. Although she and Tang Ao were trapped in this puppet-killing formation, as long as she was by Tang Ao's side, Luo Yunshang would feel an inexplicable sense of security in her heart. It was as if as long as Tang Ao was by her side, she would not be hurt no matter what happened. In reality, this was the case. In the puppet-killing formation, there are constantly martial artists dying. However, until now, Luo Yunshang was still unharmed. However, looking at the puppets that were continuously being smashed and restored, Tang Ao also frowned a little. Although these puppets were nothing to Tang Ao, and he could destroy them with a wave of his hand, Tang Ao was still able to destroy them easily. However, after Tang Ao destroyed these puppets would quickly restore themselves and charge towards Tang Ao. Chapter 1788. Therefore, Tang Ao now wanted to find a special pattern that maintained the puppet-killing formation's operation. Even if Tang Ao couldn't break the barrier now, as long as he found the special pattern and destroyed it, Tang Ao and Luo Yunshang's current crisis could be resolved. To maintain the operation of such a puppet-killing array, the consumption of essence qi was definitely very terrifying. Once there wasn't enough energy to supply, the barrier would naturally collapse by itself. However, what made Tang Ao helpless was that even with the heavenly polar pupil, Tang Ao couldn't find where the pattern that absorbed and gathered energy was hidden. At this time, Tang Ao could only think of one possibility. The pattern that absorbed energy might not be inside the barrier, but outside it. However, although Tang Ao's heavenly polar pupil could see outside the barrier, Tang Ao was trapped in the barrier and couldn't do anything. After the heavenly polar pupil passed through the barrier, Tang Ao saw the scene outside the barrier. In the Evergreen Market, Drunken Gold Building wasn't in the center, but its location wasn't bad, and the flow of people wasn't small. Because the barrier that suddenly appeared enveloped Drunken Gold Building, it attracted many people's attention. Especially after the martial artist screams came from Drunken Gold Building, some martial artists immediately realized that something was wrong. However, because of the barrier, no one could see the changes in their sister's body with their naked eyes or soul remembrance, so they naturally couldn't know what was happening inside the barrier. Although the sound inside the barrier could be heard, the martial artists outside found that the sound from the outside couldn't enter the barrier. At this time, outside the barrier, Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild's head, Shun Luoli's grandfather, Shun Qianshi, had arrived. Besides Shun Qianshi, Golden-Seeking Pavilion's Zhang Jujin, who is allied with Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild, had also arrived. The reason why the Evergreen Market could be so stable, besides Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild's joint construction, was also due to Golden-Seeking Pavilion's martial suppression. Therefore, at this time, when something happened in Drunken Gold Building, the two leaders of Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild and Golden-Seeking Pavilion instantly arrived. Apart from Shun Qianshi and Zhang Jujin, people from the other forces were rushing over as well. Not to mention the fact that the Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild and the Golden-Seeking Pavilion were maintaining order in the Evergreen Market. The Evergreen Market was extremely important to the other major forces. Therefore, the other forces also tried their best to restrain their disciples from causing trouble in the Evergreen Market. At this moment, the situation in the Evergreen Market naturally alarmed many people. Brother Qianshi, what do you think is going on? Although Shun Qianshi broke into the first level of the Origin Realm not too long ago, and Zhang Jujin was already at the third level of the Origin Realm, Zhang Jujin was still very polite to Shun Qianshi. This was because Zhang Jujin could be considered Shun Qianshi's junior, and Shun Qianshi was of the same generation as Hua Yuan of the Alchemy Guild. Moreover, although Zhang Jujin's cultivation was slightly higher than Shun Qianshi's when it came to knowledge and experience, even 10 Zhang Jujins couldn't compare to one Shun Qianshi. As the leader of 9 Colored Deer Merchant Guild, it was somewhat exaggerated to say that Shun Qianshi had basically seen everything that existed on the Flying Star continent. However, such a statement was a bit exaggerated. Shun Qianshi had indeed seen some boundaries before. However, the boundary of the puppet-killing array was something that Shun Qianshi had never seen before. Chapter 1789. One had to know that not long ago, Shun Qianshi had already ordered the headquarters of the 9 Colored Deer Merchant Guild to be moved to the Evergreen Market. Thus, the 9 Colored Deer Merchant Guild naturally put extra effort into the construction of the Evergreen Market. But what Shun Qianshi didn't understand was what the Drunken Gold Pavilion was doing at this time. Or did the Drunken Gold Pavilion offend someone they shouldn't have, and now they were being taken care of? But because of the spirit formation, the outside world had no idea what was happening inside the spirit formation. Otherwise, if the martial artists outside knew of the scene inside, who knows how many people would have been scared away by now. This was because in the hands of these puppets, the martial artist was constantly fighting against the puppets. Once the martial artist was defeated, their soul and body would be immediately absorbed by these puppets, and they would die without even a speck of dust remaining. How about I try to attack? Zhang Jujin didn't attack directly. He asked for Shun Qianshi's opinion. Zhang Jujin's strength was decent, but in terms of strategy, Zhang Jujin was inferior. Because of that, Zhang Jujin asked Shun Qianshi if he wanted to test it out himself. Shun Qianshi nodded. He didn't know the depth of the spirit formation, so it would be dangerous to rashly call people up. Zhang Jujin was at the peak of the third level of the Origin Martial Realm. Shun Qianshi was certain that a mere spirit formation couldn't harm him. After Zhang Jujin's fist landed on the spirit formation, it proved that the spirit formation couldn't harm Zhang Jujin. But even though Zhang Jujin was at the third level of the Origin Martial Realm, after Zhang Jujin's fist landed on the spirit formation, there was only a slight ripple. There were no problems. Many surrounding martial artists were slightly shocked. In the Evergreen Market, Zhang Jujin wasn't the only one at the third level of the Origin Martial Realm. But in terms of power, there really wasn't a single person who could defeat Zhang Jujin. One had to know that with the enormous financial support of the 9 Colored Deer Merchant Guild, Zhang Jujin was already at the peak of the third level of the Origin Martial Realm. He was about to enter the fourth level of the Origin Martial Realm. So, in the Evergreen Market, there were very few who could match him. But when everyone saw that the spirit formation didn't show any signs of shattering after Zhang Jujin's punch, they all secretly sighed at the power of the spirit formation. At this moment, some of the martial artists were wondering if the intoxicated gold pavilion had used such a powerful barrier to deal with some powerful enemy. Of course, there were also some martial artists who thought that if one often stood by the river, one's shoes would eventually get wet. The Drunken Gold Manor had done so many atrocious things in the open and in the dark. Could it be that some powerhouse couldn't stand it and had come to deal with the Drunken Gold Manor this time? If it was before the appearance of the Scarlet Wasteland, then the possibility of such a thing happening might not be high. However, after the appearance of the Scarlet Wasteland, such a thing might really happen. Before the Scarlet Wasteland was discovered, the 8 overlords ruled the Flying Star continent. Most of the cultivation resources were in the hands of the 8 overlords. Below the 8 overlords were the 9 Colored Deer Chamber of Commerce, the Dan Guild, the Golden Seeking Pavilion, and the Intoxicated Gold Pavilion. Therefore, the experts were basically from these forces. Chapter 1790. Moreover, as they killed the black fog monsters, the amount of origin crystals steadily increased as well. After a martial artist used origin crystals to cultivate, their cultivation would increase, and it would be easier for them to kill the black fog monsters. Like that, a virtuous cycle of cultivation was formed. Compared to the martial artists from the big powers, the wandering martial artists were more at ease in the bloody wasteland. They did not need to worry about whether or not their own powers had any arrangements, how much origin crystals they had to hand over, or whether or not they had to follow the experts from their own powers to explore some place. As a wandering martial artist in the bloody wasteland, it could be said that if one person ate their fill, the whole family would not go hungry. Basically, he would use as many origin crystals as he could. Even if he kept them on him, they would still be there. After absorbing and refining them, his strength would increase. So, in the current bloody wasteland within the origin realm, the number of wandering martial artists already made up about half of the total number of origin realm martial artists. It was already equal to the martial artists from the big powers like the 8 overlords. Facing such a situation, although the other powers did not want to see it, they had no way to stop it. So, as long as the wandering martial artists did not take the initiative to touch their interests, the overlords of the Flying Star Continent would not care about those wandering martial artists. Under such a background, the cultivation craze of the Flying Star Continent's martial artists arrived. Also because of that, there were some martial artists who suspected that a wandering martial artist made a move against the Drunken Gold Building. After all, within the big powers, the Drunken Gold Building was the most annoying power. There were even quite a few martial artists who had enmity with the Drunken Gold Building. At that moment, they naturally hoped that there was another wandering martial artist who had enmity with the Drunken Gold Building like them, and now came to the Drunken Gold Building to look for trouble. They were not wrong. Tang Ao did indeed go to the Drunken Gold Building to look for trouble. However, after Tang Ao went there, he was trapped in the Drunken Gold Building's spirit formation. Brother Qian Shi, what should we do now? Seeing that there were more and more martial artists here, Zhang Jujin was a bit worried in his heart. After all, when a number of martial artists was small, he could still control the situation. But now, there were already 4 third-level origin realm martial artists here. After they arrived, they did not speak. They just quietly looked at the barrier that enveloped Drunken Gold House. Chun Qianshi hesitated for a moment, then said, "Manor Lord Chun Chunsheng, this old man is 9-Colored Deer Merchant Guild's Chun Qianshi. If Manor Lord Chun Chunsheng can hear this old man, please reply. What has happened to the intoxicated gold pavilion?" Chun Qianshi's voice attracted everyone's attention. However, just like before, even though Chun Qianshi's words were sent out with primal qi, the barrier was still deathly silent. No one responded. After no one in the spirit formation replied, a martial artist at the 3rd level of the origin realm outside the spirit formation could not sit still anymore. This person had a head of white hair that fluttered in the wind. He held a 3-feet-long sword in his hand and crossed his arms in front of him. At this time, the sword in his hand rang out, and immediately after, a cultivator 3 feet away from him vomited blood and fell to the ground, his face filled with terror. Everyone recognized this martial artist who vomited blood and fell to the ground. He was one of the attendants of the intoxicated gold house. Chapter 1791. So what if I kill the manager? Li Qingyan, will say it here today. In the future, I will kill every single person from the Drunken Gold Building I see, until the Drunken Gold Building's name is removed from the Flying Star Continent. At the same time, the aura of the 3rd level of the origin realm exploded from Li Qingyan's body. At the current stage, although it was rumored that Lu Chuanjia and Hua Yuan had already cultivated to the 4th level of the origin realm, the cultivation of the 3rd level of the origin realm could still be counted as peak experts. Of course, if he didn't have that kind of strength, Li Qingyan naturally wouldn't dare to challenge the Drunken Gold Building. In the early days, when he just started cultivating, his lover died in the Drunken Gold Building. At that time, Li Qingyan swore that one day he would definitely succeed in his cultivation and avenge his lover. Originally, After cultivating to the third level of the origin realm, Li Qingyun was prepared to level the drunken gold building in the evergreen market. But what Li Qingyun didn't expect was that someone seemed to be one step ahead of him. Li Qingyun already knew that there was an extremely powerful puppet-killing formation in the drunken gold building, but Li Qingyun didn't think that the martial artists who were going against the drunken gold building would be so strong that they even forced out the puppet-killing formation. Naturally, Tang Ao also didn't think that if he made his move a bit later, he would be able to wait for such a strong helper like Li Qingyun. But Tang Ao didn't regret it, because he didn't want Luo Yunshang to suffer even the slightest bit of harm. At that instant, under the gaze of Tang Ao's celestial polarity eyes, everything that happened in the outside world naturally couldn't escape Tang Ao's eyes. What Tang Ao didn't expect was that the drunken gold building really did too many outrageous things. At that instant, outside the spirit formation, there were already 2 experts at the third level of the origin realm massacring the martial artists of the drunken gold building in the crowd. Although Tang Ao was happy to see such a thing, Tang Ao's most urgent problem now was how to leave the boundary of this puppet-killing array. The grade of this puppet-killing array had already exceeded the scope of Tang Ao's understanding. Tang Ao really did not understand where the drunken gold house had found this puppet-killing array's disc. Moreover, why did the puppets in this puppet-killing array attack warriors according to their cultivation? This seemed to be extremely fair. This made Tang Ao think that this puppet-killing array might be a light card left by a powerhouse to assess his successor. As long as they passed the test, they would be able to leave. But if they failed the test, they would be reduced to a puppet within the formation. Just like those cultivators who had been killed by the puppets, their souls and bodies devoured by the puppets. Although this kind of test was somewhat cruel, it was still considered fair. At least up until now, there were no puppets at the third level of the origin realm, or even puppets at the second level of the origin realm that attacked Tang Ao. The puppets' attacks were not continuous. Tang Ao discovered that as long as a puppet was destroyed, he would not be attacked by the puppets for around 30 breaths of time. After 30 breaths of time, the puppets that were destroyed would recover to their original state and continue to attack the cultivators. However, it wasn't like the beginning. At the beginning, there were only 2 puppets that attacked Tang Ao, but now there are already 5 puppets that attack Tang Ao. Chapter 1792. As for the 5 puppets with the same cultivation as Tang Ao, they were instantly killed by Tang Ao in a single move. Only then did everyone know what was invincible at the same level and what was monstrous. Only the martial artists who personally fought against the puppets would know that the strength of the puppets that were created according to their cultivation was not weaker than their own. At the very beginning, the puppets that were created were 1 puppet against 1 martial artist. But even in that situation, there were still martial artists who were killed by the puppets. But now, the number of puppets that everyone had to deal with was different. But Tang Ao was still the most overpowered, because after Tang Ao defeated 5 puppets, 6 puppets of the same level appeared next. Other than Tang Ao, Zhuobu Fan was the one who dealt with the most puppets, because he was dealing with 4 puppets of the same level. Actually, to be able to deal with 3 martial artists of the same level at the same time, he could already be considered outstanding in that realm. Zhuobu Fan and Tang Ao were the same. They were both at the first level of the origin realm. Before, Zhuobu Fan thought that he was not bad in the first level of the origin realm. But looking at it now, if he was placed together with a monstrous genius like Tang Ao, his achievement was really insignificant. Brother Tang Ao, it's not a good idea to keep fighting like this. Do you have any ideas to break this spirit formation? At that moment, Zhuobu Fan was still dealing with the 4 skeletons. If Zhuobu Fan wanted to, the 4 puppets would have already been killed by him. But Zhuobu Fan also understood that every time he killed a puppet, there would be 1 more puppet appearing next time. Zhuobu Fan didn't have the ability that Tang Ao had. In Zhuobu Fan's opinion, he could deal with 5 puppets at the same time at most, and that would be his limit. So, Zhuobu Fan didn't dare to rashly kill the puppets. He kept dealing with the puppets. After all, At the beginning, some martial artists killed 3 waves of puppets in a row, and when the 4th wave appeared, blood immediately splashed on the spot. With Zhuo Bufon's intelligence, he discovered this as early as when he killed the 3rd wave of puppets. The reason why Zhuo Bufon still forcefully killed the 3rd wave of puppets after knowing this rule was because he also wanted to know his limit. Now, when dealing with 4 warriors at the same time, although Zhuo Bufon was still able to do it with ease, he could not do it as easily as Tang Ao. Up until now, whether it was Tang Ao's puppet or Luo Yunshang's puppet, Tang Ao had always taken care of them in one move. Even when the terrifying number of puppets reached 5, Tang Ao did not stop. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Zhuo Bufon would find it very hard to believe that there was such a difference between 2 people who were both at the first level of the origin realm. Tang Ao smiled bitterly and then said to Zhuo Bufon, "This barrier is very powerful. I can't do anything about it now." Of course, it was not that Tang Ao did not want to take Zhuo Bufon and the others out, but now Tang Ao really had no other choice. Even the celestial polarity eyes, which had always been successful, hit a wall this time. Because under the investigation of Tang Ao's celestial polarity eyes, Tang Ao did not find any holes in the spirit formation. Chapter 1793. With the sturdiness of this barrier, Tang Ao didn't believe that an outsider could break it. When Zhang Jujin attacked the barrier, Tang Ao saw it with his own eyes. The outside of the barrier was just as sturdy as the inside. Therefore, unless one had special methods, no one could break this barrier. Therefore, now that Tang Ao was out of energy, Tang Ao could take Luo Yunshang and hide in the chaotic 6-light mirror. Tang Ao trusted Luo Yunshang. If it wasn't for Lin Lang and the others last time, Tang Ao could just send Luo Yunshang into the chaotic 6-light mirror and run. Even though Tang Ao hadn't exhausted his energy yet, Tang Ao didn't want to leave Luo Yunshang outside. Moreover, Tang Ao wanted to see what these puppets would do if Luo Yunshang hid in the chaotic 6-light mirror space. Thinking of this, Tang Ao immediately sent a soul remembrance to Luo Yunshang. "Sister Yunshang, I'll send you to a safe place. If I can't hold on, I'll come over." Although Luo Yunshang didn't really understand Tang Ao's meaning, Luo Yunshang still obediently nodded. Just now, Tang Ao clearly said there was no way to leave this place. Moreover, Tang Ao had personally tried before and couldn't break the barrier. However, why did Tang Ao say he was going to send her to a safe place? Although she was confused, Luo Yunshang still chose to completely trust Tang Ao. "Open your mind. I'll send you in." After Tang Ao spoke, Luo Yunshang opened her soul remembrance. Then, Luo Yunshang felt her body lighten. When she opened her eyes again, Luo Yunshang found that she was in a foreign place. This place seemed desolate, and there was no one else besides her. Fortunately, Tang Ao's voice came in just in time. "Sister Yunshang, don't be afraid. This is a special space of one of my treasures. You're very safe here. And, Brother Tang Ao, be careful." Luo Yunshang didn't know where Tang Ao was, so she could only look into the air. Tang Ao naturally heard Luo Yunshang's words. Immediately, Tang Ao laughed lightly and began to study the puppet-killing formation. At this moment, Tang Ao was almost certain that this puppet-killing formation was a checkpoint in some inheritance ruin. However, the Drunken Gold Tower's martial artists were too deranged. Tang Ao didn't know how they found this formation disc. They actually thought that the formation disc of someone else's test checkpoint was a treasure and stole it. Thinking of this, Tang Ao was speechless. However, no matter what, since he was trapped in the formation, the first thing Tang Ao had to consider was how to leave. At this time, 6 puppets at the 9th level of the body, refining realm, had appeared. However, after these 6 puppets appeared, they paused for a moment before turning into smoke and disappearing. Seeing this, Tang Ao relaxed a bit. Even in such a basic formation, his primal chaos 6-light mirror was still the boss. After Luo Yunshang entered the Primal Chaos 6 light mirror, the formation clearly couldn't sense Luo Yunshang's existence. Chapter 1794. After the appearance of the 6 martial artists at the first level of the Origin Realm, everyone once again saw Tang Ao's overbearingness. This time, Tang Ao once again sent out a cyan crescent-shaped sword aura. Subsequently, the 6 puppets were all cut in half at the waist by Tang Ao. It seemed that in front of absolute strength, numbers no longer had any meaning. At the first level of the Origin martial realm, Tang Ao's battle strength had already reached this height. After casually getting rid of the puppets that appeared this time, Tang Ao wasn't very excited. This was because the 9-Dragon Emperor Jade Body's cultivation used up a terrifying amount of resources. If the result was the same as a normal martial artist, then it would be a waste of those crystals. At the beginning, Tang Ao noticed that there were at least 700 to 800 martial artists in the intoxicated gold tower. But now, after Tang Ao's soul remembrance swept the surroundings, he discovered that there were less than 200 martial artists left. Tang Ao's gaze then looked at the instigator of all this, Yuan Taichu. At this moment, Yuan Taichu was still fighting 3 third-level Origin martial realm puppets. At this moment, Yuan Taichu had gradually calmed down from his initial fluster. When the puppets first appeared, Yuan Taichu was in a state of panic, so he killed 2 waves of puppets without any hesitation. It was only after the 3rd wave that Yuan Taichu realized his mistake. Different from Yuan Taichu, although Feng Kunlun was always clear-headed, Feng Kunlun was the type of person who was skilled and daring. The first 2 waves of puppets were also instantly killed by Feng Kunlun. Only after the 3rd wave of puppets did Feng Kunlun realize something was wrong. Luckily, even if he was fighting 3 puppets of the same level, it was still within his acceptable range. Therefore, Feng Kunlun knew that right now, he could easily deal with the 3 third-level Origin martial realm puppets. At this moment, the person who was the most pleased was Chun Chunsheng, because after the puppet-killing formation activated, Chun Chunsheng immediately realized something was wrong. Immediately, Chun Chunsheng only wanted to escape, so he naturally didn't fight with the puppets that appeared behind him. After discovering that he couldn't escape, Chun Chunsheng also understood the pattern of the puppet's appearance. Immediately, Chun Chunsheng continued to fight with the first puppet that appeared. Although Chun Chunsheng was not lightly taught a lesson by Tang Ao, within the 2nd level of the Origin realm, Chun Chunsheng's strength was clearly not that bad. At this moment, in the puppet-killing array, other than Tang Ao, Chun Chunsheng was the most relaxed. Moreover, Chun Chunsheng's eyes were filled with disdain as he watched Tang Ao kill the puppets one after another. Today, Chun Chunsheng refused to believe that the puppets in the puppet-killing array were infinite. Tang Ao's essence energy was also infinite. Although there was a short rest period of 30 breaths after killing the puppets, it was still not enough. However, there wasn't much that could be done in 30 breaths of time. It was also because of this that Chun Chunsheng had been fighting with a puppet. However, Chun Chunsheng was also feeling anxious. Although it was easier to fight with a puppet, he was still depleting his primordial energy. Although the depleting was slow, no matter how slow it was, his primordial energy was still depleting. As long as his primordial energy was depleting, there would definitely be a time when his primordial energy was depleting. Once his primordial energy was depleting, he would be finished. Although Chun Chunsheng knew that he had gone too far, and before he even killed the first puppet, he discovered the secret of the puppet-killing array. However, Chun Chunsheng also understood that if this continued, he would at most be the last to die. It would be impossible for him to leave this place alive. Chapter 1795. At that instant, in Yuan Taichu's hand, there was a puppet that wore dark-colored silver armor. That puppet seemed to have an extraordinary meaning to the puppet-killing formation. But no matter how Yuan Taichu fiddled with it, the dark silver puppet had no effect on the puppet-killing formation. That made Yuan Taichu so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. The reason why he laid the puppet-killing formation in the Drunken Gold Building in the Evergreen Market was because the Drunken Gold Building had the intentions of moving their headquarters there. The reason why he laid the puppet-killing formation was to deal with the martial artists that looked down on the Drunken Gold Building's dignity. Now it was good to deal with a martial artist at the first level of the Origin Realm. He activated the puppet-killing formation. Only after activating the puppet-killing formation did Yuan Taichu know that the puppet-killing formation was completely different from what he imagined. It was as if no living person could exist in the puppet-killing formation. Although the dark silver puppet had no effect, Yuan Taichu did not give up. It was quite troublesome for Yuan Taichu to deal with 3 puppets at the 3rd level of the Origin Realm at the same time, especially after his 2 strongest fate spirits were taken away by Tang Ao. Yuan Taichu felt that he could only use 40% of his peak fighting strength. But what Yuan Taichu didn't expect was that the puppets didn't even have a soul. So, even if his Ghost Hook and Gehenna Hammer were still there, they were useless. After all, no matter if it was the Ghost Hook or Gehenna Hammer, they both attacked the soul. So, if he used the Ghost Hook and Gehenna Hammer to deal with the puppets, he wouldn't dare to say that there was no effect, but there wouldn't be much meaning. On the other hand, Tang Ao's Demon Beheading Axe was really powerful against the puppets. However, clearly, Tang Ao didn't have any thoughts of using the Demon Beheading Axe to deal with the puppets. It was because Tang Ao hadn't refined the Demon Beheading Axe yet. If he used the Demon Beheading Axe to fight, it would consume too much of Tang Ao's strength. Also, the puppets that were dealing with Tang Ao were at the 1st level of the Origin Realm. Puppets of that level were of no threat to Tang Ao. After killing so many puppets, Tang Ao also discovered that these puppets, from the beginning, only knew simple martial techniques. Now, they already knew some powerful martial techniques. However, in front of Tang Ao, there was no such thing as reason. These puppets could not even unleash their martial techniques before they were instantly killed by Tang Ao. Although the powerhouse who had left his inheritance hoped that the martialist who inherited it would receive a fair test, Tang Ao's existence was already very unfair. With a blood-curdling scream, another martial artist was killed by the puppet. After the death of this warrior, there were only 180 warriors left in the barrier. When there were only 180 people left, all the puppets on the field suddenly disappeared. As the puppets disappeared, the cultivators still fighting didn't understand what had happened. However, they still hastily took out pills and consumed them. Then, they sat down cross-legged and began to recover their Yuan Qi and soul remembrance. No one knew what the sudden disappearance of the puppets meant, but everyone understood that recovering Yuan Qi and soul remembrance was the most important thing right now. However, Feng Kunlun didn't do this. Instead, he immediately pointed at Yuan Taichu and asked, "Old man Yuan, do you want to trap us here until we die?" Chapter 1796. Moreover, would Tang Ao be fine just because he had taken 2 of his fate souls? Of course, that was not the case. In the Drunken Gold House, there were 5 Supreme Elders, including him. Only he could explain the situation, and the 5 of them would act together. No matter how heaven-defying Tang Ao was, there was only death for him. With the appearance of the Blood Wasteland, a few powerful fellows had appeared among the wandering martial artists. However, wandering martial artists would forever be orphans. Only when they faced a truly large faction would they truly realize the cruelty of the martial Dao world. Tang Ao was currently completely ignoring Yuan Taichu's martial arts. Although Tang Ao wanted to slaughter Qin Chunxing right now, time was precious. However, time was precious, and Tang Ao did not want to waste his precious time on Qin Chunxing. At this moment, the barrier was incomparably calm. Tang Ao once again calmly used Heavenly Extreme Pupils, probing the barrier inch by inch. Tang Ao didn't go into detail. This barrier truly didn't have any weak spots. Today, the people here could only be exhausted to death. As he thought of this, Tang Ao used Heavenly Extreme Pupils to carefully examine the barrier. However, under Tang Ao's examination, Tang Ao's eyes grew more and more disappointed. This was because after looking for a long time, Tang Ao still couldn't find any weak spots in the barrier. Just as Tang Ao was about to continue carefully examining the barrier, Tang Ao suddenly looked in front of him. At this moment, in front of Tang Ao, 6 items had appeared. It wasn't just Tang Ao. A few items had appeared in front of all the living martial artists. These items included pills, talismans, spirit grasses, ores, spirit artifacts, martial technique manuals, and a few other strange items that he didn't know about. However, these items weren't real, but rather illusory images. Tang Ao's sole remembrance swept around. Tang Ao discovered that the items that appeared in front of each martial artist were all different in both quantity and item. After looking around, Tang Ao quickly understood what it meant. Earlier, Tang Ao had killed a total of 6 waves of puppets. Thus, 6 items had appeared before Tang Ao. Zhuo Bufan had only killed 3 waves of puppets just now, and then he had been fighting with a 4th wave of puppets. So at this moment, only 3 different things appeared in front of Zhuo Bufan. Moreover, the 3 things in front of Zhuo Bufan were much worse than the 6 things that appeared in front of Tang Ao. Although he knew it was just an illusory image, Tang Ao still grabbed one of the broken maps. This map was only a very small piece, a very dilapidated piece. However, Tang Ao could still vaguely see that this small piece of map seemed to be a complete map that had been divided into 4 parts. The one in his hand happened to be one of them. Tang Ao didn't know what was recorded on this map, but Tang Ao had a feeling that the things recorded on this map seemed to be very impressive. This was because Tang Ao naturally recognized that other than this map, the other 5 items weren't simple goods. The Sawtooth Broadsword was a 2nd-grade immortal artifact. However, now that Tang Ao had the Demon Beheading Axe and the Primordial Sacred Heavenly Bow, this immortal artifact was no longer useful to Tang Ao. Chapter 1797. If it was light, one's cultivation would be exhausted. If it was heavy, one would immediately dissipate. The purpose of this devil-melting talisman was to eliminate a martial artist's inner demons. Hence, the value of this talisman was immeasurable. However, to Tang Ao, this devil-melting talisman was of little value. The sky-polar eyes could see through all illusions. No matter how much Tang Ao cultivated, he would not have inner demons. Hence, this devil-melting talisman was of no use to Tang Ao. The item beside the devil-melting talisman made Tang Ao even more speechless. Beside the devil-melting talisman was the mysterious heaven skill that Tang Ao had cultivated in his previous life. The reason why Tang Ao was speechless was because this was the first volume of the mysterious heaven skill. Tang Ao had cultivated the mysterious heaven skill in his previous life. Hence, Tang Ao naturally knew that the mysterious heaven skill was divided into upper, middle, and lower levels. Hence, if there was only the first volume of the mysterious heaven skill, it would be of no use to Tang Ao. After all, the first and second volumes of the mysterious heaven skill were in Tang Ao's chaotic 6 light mirror space. Tang Ao knew that the complete mysterious heaven skill was of a higher grade than the ancient god moving sky technique. However, up until now, Tang Ao had never seen the last volume of the mysterious heaven skill. In fact, Tang Ao had never even heard of it. Besides these 3 items, there were 2 other items that Tang Ao was interested in. Tang Ao saw that one of the 2 items was a secret manual. This secret manual was a cultivation technique for martial artists that tempered their bodies. Although Tang Ao was not a martial artist, if he had the chance, Tang Ao would like to understand the wonders of this technique. One had to know that martial artists that tempered their bodies were very rare. In both of Tang Ao's lives, he had only met one martial artist that tempered his body, Lin Lang. The item beside the body tempering technique was a material. It was a piece of jade. However, even with Tang Ao's eyesight, he could not tell what rank this jade was. However, Tang Ao knew that since this jade had appeared in this place, it was definitely not ordinary. However, in the end, Tang Ao still decided to take this map. Tang Ao had a feeling that out of these 6 items, this map was the best. Therefore, Tang Ao didn't hesitate too much. He reached out and grabbed the broken map. It was obviously just an illusory image, but Tang Ao really grabbed something. Looking closely, Tang Ao found that he had not grabbed the map, but he had grabbed a square stone. There were no ripples on this rock, but when Tang Ao scanned it with his soul remembrance, he discovered that there was a tattered map image on the rock. After Tang Ao grabbed the stone, the other 5 items instantly disappeared. Just like Tang Ao, many martial artists also managed to get their hands on what they fancied. However, out of all these martial artists, Chun Chunsheng was the unluckiest. Just now, Chun Chunsheng had been fighting with the first puppet in a self-righteous manner. Although Chun Chunsheng hadn't consumed much of his energy, since he hadn't killed a single puppet, there was nothing in front of Chun Chunsheng. Although most of the martial artists had already chosen, some martial artists were still hesitating over the few items in front of them. Clearly, they did not know what to choose. Although Tang Ao had already put away the square stone, Tang Ao did not know what this square stone was used for. Chapter 1798. Then, just like the gray stone that Tang Ao grabbed, another gray stone appeared in the hands of these warriors. After the last warrior made his choice, the scene in the puppet barrier suddenly changed. The drunken gold tower had completely disappeared. What replaced it was a huge, wide plaza. The plaza was made of hard diamond rock. That spirit material was very hard. Even Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be able to destroy it easily. Not to mention that the most powerful warriors here were only at the 3rd level of the Origin realm. After the scene changed, a lot of warriors were shocked. They did not understand what was going on. But Tang Ao could only sigh in his heart. The powerful warrior who left behind the ancient ruins had a horrifying understanding of formations. He did not know what method the drunken gold tower used to get this formation disc, but there were so many changes hidden in it. Also, Tang Ao's sky polar pupils once again encountered a restriction. Tang Ao could tell that this was a very powerful illusory formation, but Tang Ao could not see through it. Not only that, this time, Tang Ao could not even see what was going on outside. But Tang Ao was sure that they were still at the drunken gold tower's location. Just then, the puppets that just disappeared appeared again. A lot of warriors had tasted the sweetness before. When the puppets appeared again, a lot of people were ready for a big fight. That gray stone did not look useless no matter how they looked at it. Although no matter how many puppets they put down, they could only pick one thing in the end. But the more things they could choose, the more likely it was that something good would appear. Just then, when they saw that Tang Ao could choose 6 things, a lot of people were envious. But envy was envy. Even now, no one had the courage to challenge 6 batches of puppets that were at the same level as them. But soon, the warriors' expressions changed. Although it was the same as before, there was only one puppet that appeared. But the puppet that appeared this time was a bit special. For example, Tang Ao clearly only had the cultivation of the 1st level of the Origin realm, but the puppet that appeared in front of Tang Ao was at the peak of the 1st level of the Origin realm. Although to Tang Ao, a puppet at the peak of the 1st level of the Origin realm was nothing much. Within the 180 martial artists there, only Tang Ao could reach that level. Other than Tang Ao, no one dared to ignore it. Therefore, the people who were prepared to go all out just now immediately changed their strategy. With the lesson just now, most of the martial artists now fought steadily with the puppets in front of them. Apart from those martial artists who were already at the peak of this realm, other martial artists would find it difficult to deal with puppets at the peak of the same realm. In fact, not long after, a martial artist at the 9th level of the body refining realm had been killed by the puppet in front of him. Chapter 1799. After casually waving a strand of sword energy to kill the peak of the 1st level of the Origin realm, Tang Ao did not feel any joy. Although the puppet had the cultivation of the peak of the first level of the origin realm, it did not have the strength of a peak first level of the origin realm martial artist. Not only was its battle awareness weak, its martial skills were also very stiff. It could be said that as long as a martial artist had a bit of battle experience, they would have no problem dealing with puppets of this level. As for the 9th level of the body refinement realm martial artist who was killed by the puppet at the start, it could only be said that his strength was too weak. The essence around him was very weak, and his martial skills and movements were also very stiff. With a glance, it could be seen that he used medicinal pills to build up his cultivation, and he had never fought before. So, in the first round of fighting against the puppet, his luck was good, and he endured. But this time, after the puppet's battle strength increased greatly, the martial artists with unstable foundations immediately showed their true colors. At that instant, on the empty ground, Tang Ao saw many colorful fate souls being released by the surrounding martial artists, and they were fiercely fighting against the puppet in front of him. If it was said that in the first round of puppet attacks, many people were relatively relaxed, then at that moment, many martial artists started to fight with their lives on the line. But because their foundations were weak and they lacked battle experience, when they met these puppets at the peak of the same level, they did not have much room to fight and were killed by the puppets. And that was only a one-on-one battle. One had to know that after one puppet was killed, the number of puppets would increase by one the next time they appeared. The first martial artist to deal with the 2 puppets was naturally Tang Ao. It was different from the 30 breaths of time before. This time, after dealing with the puppet, the second wave of puppets would only appear after 60 breaths of time. To Tang Ao, this was good news. Of course, Tang Ao did not need the 60 breaths of time to recover. What Tang Ao needed was to use the 60 breaths of time to find a breakthrough point in the spirit formation. No matter if it was a natural spirit formation or a spirit formation laid by a formation master, there was never a flawless spirit formation. If such a spirit formation really existed, then the formation masters of the younger generation would not need to create new spirit formations. They only needed to learn a spirit formation like this, and that would be completely enough. But in reality, there was no such perfect array formation in this world. Moreover, the array formation had a way to break it. Everything that happened on the Flying Star Continent was constantly refreshing Tang Ao's understanding of the Flying Star Continent. Originally, on such a low-level continent, everything should be under Tang Ao's control. But in fact, many things in the Flying Star Continent were beyond Tang Ao's imagination. In terms of cultivation base, there were many native warriors of the Flying Star Continent who had a higher cultivation base than Tang Ao. In terms of experience, Tang Ao was too inexperienced compared to old monsters like Shi Yun and Shuejiao. As for the puppet boundary that was trapping Tang Ao, even Tang Ao's skypolarity eyes could not see through it. Shua shua. After the 2 silver-armored puppets appeared, they immediately raised the spears in their hands and stabbed at Tang Ao. Although their attacks were fierce, they still lacked flexibility. Tang Ao did not dodge. The 7 azure lotus swords combined into one and appeared in Tang Ao's hand. Then, Tang Ao swept the azure lotus sword horizontally. A crescent sword chi waved out, and the 2 puppets fell to the ground. Then, they were severed from the waist. Chapter 1800. After all, with Chun Chunxing's lesson just now, everyone knew that although fighting a single puppet saved energy, in the end there was nothing. The more waves of killing puppets there were, the more treasures would appear in the end. Although they could only choose one treasure from many, the more treasures there were, the higher the chances of something good appearing. Or else, if Tang Ao only killed 3 waves of martial artists, it was extremely possible that the 3 things that appeared would be useless to Tang Ao. If that happened, Tang Ao would have a huge loss. There were martial artists being killed by the puppets, and there were also martial artists killing puppets. In an instant, the number of martial artists on the stage gradually decreased. In the beginning, there were 180 people, but now there were only 160 people left. Within the remaining martial artists, Feng Kunlun and Yuan Taichu, who were at the third level of the origin realm, were there. However, this time, the two of them did not rashly kill the first puppet. It was because the time that the two of them broke into the third level of the origin realm was not long. Although the two of them could use some methods to kill the peak of the third level of the origin realm in front of them, the two old foxes were abnormally careful. They only very cautiously fought the puppet in front of them and did not have any thoughts of killing the puppet. Compared to other martial artists, although they also wanted to pick the treasures in the end, compared to those treasures, they valued their lives more. Even if they could not get anything in the end, the two of them did not want to give up their lives here. Although their cultivations were higher than everyone else's, they were also more afraid of death than anyone else. The cultivation of the third level of the origin realm already gave them quite a bit of things. As long as they could live, they would still be the respected third level of the origin realm. As for treasures, as long as they could live, they could get as many as they wanted. So, the two of them did not prepare to risk their lives here. Different from Yuan Taichu and Feng Kunlun, other than a martial artist who could barely deal with one puppet, most of the martial artists already killed the puppet in front of them and started to challenge the other two puppets. The cultivation of these martial artists were on the low side. Basically, they were at the first level of the origin realm or the body refinement realm. Very clearly, within the martial artists that were still alive, the lower their cultivation was, the more solid their foundation was. Because of that, they had the courage to challenge even more puppets. As for the result of the challenge, no one could be sure until the end. Inside the puppet barrier, a group of cultivators and puppets fought in full swing. Outside the puppet barrier, the atmosphere was equally tense. At this moment, more and more drunken Gold House martial artists were rushing in. However, Li Qingyun was a man of his word. No matter how many drunken Gold House martial artists came, he would kill them all the same. Although Zhang Jujin and Shun Qianshi had tried to stop Li Qingyun refused to budge. Whenever a martial artist from the intoxicated Gold House appeared, Li Qingyun's sword would immediately go over. Up until now, there were already 13 corpses lined up on the scene. These 13 corpses all belonged to intoxicated Gold House's martial artists. There was only one wound on their bodies, and they were all sword wounds on their throats. The strongest of the martial artists were at the second level of the origin realm, but even if they were at the second level of the origin realm, in front of Li Qingyun, their throats were still slit with one slash. Chapter 1801. As the president of Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild, Shun Qianshi was naturally not a stupid person. This Shun's words naturally come from the bottom of my heart. Whether it's Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild, Golden Seeking Pavilion, or even everyone here today, I believe we all have the same thoughts. It's just that the Evergreen Market is still under construction, and none of us understand the intoxicated gold pavilion's matter. Therefore, this happened suddenly. I hope the two of you can forgive us. If it was the head of the intoxicated gold pavilion who came, perhaps Shun Qianshi would go through some twists and turns. But it was only these two people who came, and their words were not polite at all. Shun Qianshi naturally didn't need to be polite to them. After all, Shun Qianshi himself was already at the first level of the origin realm. Moreover, with the Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild's ocean of origin crystals, in the future, the number of origin realm cultivators the Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild possessed would not be inferior to the Liu family's manor. Therefore, at a time like this, as long as one wasn't hopelessly stupid, what one should do was to befriend Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild and not take the initiative to stand against them. However, because of the intoxicated gold pavilion's special nature, Nine-Colored Deer Merchant Guild could not form any friendship with them. After hearing Shun Qianshi's words, the two elders' noses became crooked from anger. One of them pointed at Shun Qianshi's nose and scolded, "Shun Qianshi, I've finally seen it today. Wait for us." He didn't manage to finish his sentence, because after the sound of his sword, there was a bloody mark on his neck. Li Qingyun didn't go back on his words. Li Qingyun really did kill every intoxicated gold pavilion cultivator that came to the Evergreen Market. After Qingyun killed this person, the other person immediately wanted to escape. But before he could take a few steps, he bumped into a burly man with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Before the drunken Goldhouse elder could react, the burly man's sandbag-sized fist smashed into his head. After suffering such a heavy blow, the elder immediately fell to the ground and twitched. Red and white blood flowed all over the ground. The scene was abnormally bloody. Little Metal Pillar, have you seen Senior Tang Ao? Previously, Tang Ao had said that he would be back soon, but now that 4 hours had passed, there was still no sign of Tang Ao. Ling Weiwei was a little worried, so she came out to look for Tang Ao with Wu Shu and Little Iron Pillar. Coincidentally, they saw a large number of martial artists gathered here. Ling Weiwei and the others did not understand what was going on and immediately joined the crowd. In the end, as soon as he arrived, he saw the bloody scene of Li Qing Yun killing the drunken Gold Manor martial artists. Fortunately, the three of them had seen the world and had experienced life and death battles. At this moment, seeing so many intoxicated Gold Pavilion martial artists die here, he was just a little surprised. Little Tai Zhu shook his head. Before, Senior Tang Ao came from this direction, but why can't we find him? Could it be that Senior Brother Tang Ao didn't come here? When Tang Ao left, Xiao Taizhu saw Tang Ao heading in this direction. What Xiao Taizhu didn't understand was why he hadn't seen Tang Ao for so long. Chapter 1802. If they didn't leave now, they would definitely be drawn into this chaotic battle. There were many Origin Realm martial artists here, and they had no chance of winning. Body Refinement Realm martial artists here could only be cannon fodder within cannon fodder. Although Ling Weiwei was worried about Tang Ao, she knew that Wu Mu was right. The Drunken Gold House was not an ordinary faction. So many of their martial artists had been killed here. It would be strange if the Drunken Gold House would take this lying down. Therefore, one didn't have to think to know that there would definitely be a huge battle here soon. Ling Weiwei felt that the experts of the intoxicated Gold House should have arrived by now. Although all of the Drunken Gold House's martial artists here had been killed by Li Qingyun, but there were definitely some martial artists who were on good terms with the Drunken Gold House who had tipped off the Drunken Gold House. Let's leave this place first and follow this direction to find Senior Martial Brother Tang Ao. If he still couldn't find it, he could return to the inn along the way. Senior Brother Tang Ao previously said that as long as the two flaming lions are with us, he will be able to find us very quickly. Although Ling Weiwei was still young, she was not ignorant. Wu Mu was correct. They personally saw Tang Ao's strength before. 2 Origin Realm Blaze Lions at the 2nd level were easily subdued by Tang Ao. So, as long as Tang Ao didn't actively provoke the experts at the 3rd level of the Origin Realm in the Evergreen Market Square, naturally, nothing would happen to Tang Ao. Moreover, after interacting with Tang Ao, Ling Weiwei knew that Tang Ao wasn't the type of person to cause trouble. Within the puppet boundary, 5 puppets had already appeared in front of Tang Ao. With the previous experience, Tang Ao killed the puppets very quickly this time. No matter how many puppets appeared, Tang Ao swung his sword. No matter how many puppets appeared, they were all killed by Tang Ao with a single sword strike. By now, everyone was somewhat numb to Tang Ao's fighting strength. If it was said that Lu Xingjin could suppress the geniuses of the Flying Star Continent before, then the crowd was absolutely certain now. Tang Ao, who was at the 1st level of the Origin Realm, might not be any weaker than Lu Xingjin, who was at the 2nd level of the Origin Realm. After all, what Tang Ao killed with 1 strike were 5 puppets at the 1st level of the Origin Realm. At this moment, the number of martial artists in the arena had decreased by a lot. From 180 people at the beginning, it had been reduced to 160 people, and now it was only slightly more than 100 people. The reason why cultivators fell so quickly was because many cultivators had misjudged their own strength. Many people felt that killing 2 puppets wasn't too strenuous, but when the 3rd puppet appeared, they still killed it for the 3rd time. However, unlike Tang Ao, there were not many martial artists who could instantly kill 3 puppets at once. If he couldn't kill all 3 puppets at the same time, the puppets that were killed would keep reviving. Under such circumstances, there were naturally many martial artists who died due to exhaustion of their origin chi. Tang Ao saw that this time, Zhuo Bufan was going all out. At this moment, Zhuo Bufan was surrounded by 4 puppets at the peak of the first level of the body refining realm. It was obvious that Zhuo Bufan had reached his limit when facing 4 puppets at the peak of the first level of the body refining realm at the same time. Thus, this time, Zhuo Bufan didn't continue to kill the puppets. Instead, he started to deal with these puppets. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.